Hello, welcome to the Fanfic Majesty. 8:00 p.m. IM. Chapter 141, Chapter 138. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Just as Loki sighed, a figure appeared in his sight. It was a human bald head. Loki frowned. It was this nasty bald head that prevented him from starting Bifrost's plan to destroy Jotunheim last time. So this time, he made a small plan to get Hulk away from the bald head. It turned out to be very successful. Everything that has happened so far is within his calculations. Loki and Li Wei once played against each other briefly. The only thing he knew was that this guy was extremely powerful, otherwise he wouldn't lead this guy away before executing the plan. But how strong this guy really is, Loki doesn't know. Master Loki, what to do with this human being? The burly Charita asked. Kill him, Loki said. Following Loki's orders, countless Charitas attacked Li Wei. Boom bang 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 bang. The overwhelming fire flooded Li Wei, and the flames burst into the sky. In the sea of fire, the white cloak was raised, and Li Wei stepped out. Boom boom boom. A series of energy bullets hit Li Wei, who turned a blind eye and walked towards Loki. Stop approaching, human. The burly Charita Star Man, about 3 or 4 meters high, walked towards Li Wei. Stop. Boom. The next moment, Li Wei raised his fist, and the burly Charita Star burst open. Loki, I hope you won't be as weak as in the movie. Li Wei said. Quote. Loki was confused by Li Wei's words. Advertisement. Afterwards, Li Wei didn't say a word, and rushed towards Loki. Roar screamed, fists rubbing the air to make a harsh sonic boom. Almost at the moment when Li Wei's voice fell, his attack was already close to Loki, and his fist slammed into Loki's face. Boom. With a deafening roar, a white transparent diamond shield appeared in front of Loki, blocking Livy's attack. But these diamond-shaped transparent shields failed to hold on for half a second under the blow of Li Wei's fist, and broke instantly. Boom. Li Wei's fist directly penetrated Loki's body. Like my brother, he is a guy with well-developed limbs and a simple mind. The figure of Loki in front of Li Wei gradually faded away. Loki's real body hovered over the sky behind Li Wei, looking down at the mortal like a high god. Really? Suddenly, Loki noticed Li Wei's figure shaking, and then the latter's voice appeared behind him. What a fast speed. Loki was stunned, and then he also felt a terrifying force coming, as if to tear his body apart. Dimensional rift. Just when Li Wei's fist was about to hit Loki, Loki's shout sounded. In this shout, there was no change in the former, with a trace of panic. Roar's whistling sound sounded, and the space behind Loki tore apart, traveling a dark crack. At the moment when he touched the space crack, Li Wei put his hand away in time. But even so, the mighty suction from the cracks in the space also sucked him in instantly. Go to other worlds. Loki's scepter clicked on this space crack, and the space crack closed immediately. I hate magician. Just as the space crack was about to close, a few fingers stretched out from the space crack, preventing the space crack from closing. Later, a pair of hands appeared, tearing the space crack apart again. Loki was stunned, his eyes filled with disbelief. Advertisement. Isn't this guy's body afraid of the splitting power of the space crack? Dimensional crack, that is to forcibly tear 2 dimensions apart. The tension of the splitting of 2 or even multiple worlds is horrible enough to destroy everything. Li Wei jumped out of the space crack, and at this moment, the battle suit on his body was torn apart by the power in the space crack. But it was also the moment he jumped out of the space crack, the battle suit automatically repaired the gap. Only then did Li Wei's eyes show a gleam of brilliance. Loki finally got him interested. This guy is by no means the low-exploded evil god Loki in the movie. Loki in the movie always seems to be beaten up by all kinds of superhero, as if any superhero can catch Loki and beaten up. Loki's true strength is actually not that weak. He has super stamina and strength just by his body, able to lift tons of heavy objects. Without using any magic, ordinary damage on Earth cannot break Loki's defenses. He has various abilities such as shapeshifting, energy explosion, fantasy creation, flight, telepathy, hypnotic ability, and teleportation. In Asgard, Loki is known as the god of fire and deceit. Not only that, Loki is the son of Lof, the king of the giants of Jotunheim, so he will have the power to release and make ice like the giants of Jotunheim. Loki's strength. Even Odin said, it's really not easy to get rid of your magic. This shows Loki's magical strength. Even for a while, the title of Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme was taken away by Loki. It's just that this guy is more fishing, likes to use tricks, and likes to play with others, so he doesn't always show his powerful magic power. But now, Loki felt that if he didn't use his full strength, he would be beaten to death by this guy in front of him. Go on. Li Wei raised his fist. The next moment, he appeared in front of Loki. Boom. The fist squeezed the air and made a harsh sonic boom. With a punch, Loki's figure disappeared into ashes. Phantom. Advertisement. Li Wei glanced around. Loki had disappeared. But he did not leave. Li Wei could feel it. I found you. Suddenly, Li Wei dashed forward, his fist blasted out into the air. Boom. With a loud explosion, a large number of diamond-shaped transparent light shields in the sky shattered in an instant, and Loki's figure was standing behind these light shields. With consternation in Loki's pupils, a violent fist wind hit him. Loki snorted, and the whole person turned into a cannonball and charged behind him. Boom. Loki's body was like a broken kite. He drew a parabola in the air. After he pierced a building, he slammed it on the ground. With a bang, there was a more than 10-meter in diameter on the ground. Deep pit. Damn mortal, how dare he? Loki crawled out of the pit embarrassedly, with red blood on the corners of his mouth. At this time, a golden light flashed across the sky. Boom. The golden light impacted, the ground exploded, and rubble splashed, and Li Wei walked towards Loki. Mortal, I am a god, Loki. Boom. Before Loki's words fell, a burst of Roar's fist blew up. Loki was startled, his figure flickered, and he had appeared on the street in the distance. The evil god of the 9 worlds, the god of tricks, the son of Odin, are you capable of this? Li Wei walked towards Loki step by step. Mortal, you will regret what you did. Loki raised the scepter, and a shockwave of energy shot towards Li Wei. Li Wei stretched out his hand to block, this energy shockwave hit his arm, and instantly diverged towards the left and right to impact, the roar sounded, and the streets on both sides suddenly turned into ruins. Chapter 142 Chapter 139. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Li Wei's toes were a little on the ground, and there was a bang explosion, and dense spider web-like cracks appeared on the ground. The powerful explosive force made Li Wei turned into a golden lightning and rushed towards Loki. In an instant, Li Wei approached Loki. Punch, attack. Boom. With a loud roar, a pit appeared in the street under Li Wei's punch. The rubble splashed, but there was no Loki in the pit, he disappeared. Die, mortal. Loki's figure appeared behind Li Wei. I saw you. Li Wei's fluttering voice appeared behind Loki, followed by a harsh sonic boom. That is the sonic boom made by the fist, breaking through the speed of sound, and squeezing the air with the terrifying force during the strike. Boom. The fist pierced Loki's body instantly with a thunderous force. But without any hindrance, Loki's pierced figure faded away, and he disappeared. Rumble. The violent wind pressure blasted a deep gully about tens of meters in length from the street in front, the land was overturned, and the cars parked on the side of the road were thrown out. I saw you too. Loki's voice appeared behind Li Wei again. Li Wei's reaction was not unpleasant. He quickly turned around and shot out his fists. In an instant, Li Wei's movement stopped and he was frozen at this moment. Li Wei turned into an ice sculpture. His fist was only a few centimeters away from Loki's front door. Follow the ice to dissipate. It is your honor to die in the hands of Loki, the god of tricks. Loki's scepter was placed on the Li Wei ice sculpture. Boom. The next moment, the ice sculpture burst open. The strong wind swept around and slammed Loki fiercely, sending him tens of meters away, hitting his back heavily on the street. Are you so capable? Advertisement. Li Wei's contempt made Loki angry. You will regret it, mortal. Loki got up from the ground and wiped off the nosebleed. The figure shook, and dozens of Loki appeared on the ground and in the air in an instant. These Loki's pupils became scarlet, the surrounding temperature dropped suddenly, and the ground was covered with ice. An ice ridge about a few meters long appeared in Loki's hand, and he threw it at Li Wei, and then dozens of Loki repeated his actions. Shoo! For a while, a dense rain of icy arrows shot towards Li Wei. Boom bang bang! A wave of ice blasts on Li Wei, and in an instant, Li Wei turned into a huge amounts of ice sculpture. Boom! In that instant, the ice sculpture burst open. The ice slag splashed and Li Wei stepped out. He raised his fist and blasted out a punch, and the phantoms disappeared one after another. Dozens of them can be handled by you, how about hundreds of them? Loki stepped forward to Li Wei, and in an instant, countless phantoms flew out of his body. The ground and air were densely filled with Loki's phantoms. Is it better than the quantity? Li Wei looked at Loki with an expression that you were sure to do so. Seriously series, repeated horizontal jumps. Boom 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 boom. Suddenly, Li Wei's figure was everywhere on the ground and in the air. Dang. Loki was stunned, and the scepter in his hand fell to the ground. This. Boom. Then, a red boxing shadow appeared in Loki's field of vision. Loki stepped back subconsciously, exhaling a lot of cold air from his mouth, and in an instant, Li Wei was frozen into an ice sculpture. Bang. The ice sculpture exploded, and Li Wei stepped out and slammed his fist towards Loki. Seriously punch. With unstoppable force in his fist, he rushed towards Loki. Loki's eyes shrank, and a mighty energy burst out of his body. Rumble. A deafening roar resounded through the sky, and the gorgeous golden armor on Loki collapsed in an instant. Advertisement. Immediately, an energy shield wrapped Loki's body, but dense cracks appeared under Li Wei's punch, and finally crashed to pieces. Boom. Loki turned into a cannonball and rushed out behind him. Wherever he went, the shop windows on both sides of the street were shattered. Boom. After breaking through a few buildings, Loki rushed out on the street and went up to the front meter, then smashed a huge hole in the ground. The gravel splashed, and a strong wind pressure swept out towards the surroundings. In the center of the pit, Loki lay motionless. One arm was torn into pieces in the process of resisting Li Wei's strength, and the corner of his mouth was filled with red blood. The god armor on his body has disappeared, his clothes are torn and his body is covered with scars. It deserves to be one of the top magicians in the 9 realms. At this time, there was a bang, and Li Weifei fell in front of Loki. Unfortunately, you shouldn't have come to Earth. On the Shield helicarrier, a fighter plane was ready. After being authorized, the pilot started the fighter plane and rushed out. Commander Nick has been suspended and executed the order. 7A11. 7A11 has been confirmed. I am ready to take off. At the same time, main control room. Sir, there is an abnormality on the deck. Hill Agent said to Nick behind him. Upon hearing Hill Agent's words, Nick Fury guessed what was going on, and he hurried out. Attention all personnel, a fighter took off illegally and knocked it down. Repeat, the takeoff was not approved. Hill Agent said. Nick found a rocket launcher in the arsenal and hurried to the deck. At this time, a fighter plane had already taken off. Nick aimed at the fighter plane, the rocket was launched and hit the flight fighter plane. At this time, another fighter jet rushed out and flew into the air. Nick pulled out his pistol and aimed it, only to find that the fighter was far away. Tony, did you hear that? Nick immediately contacted Tony Stark, who was fighting in the Stark building. Advertisement. A fighter plane with a nuclear bomb flew past. How long will it be? Manhattan. At the foot of the Stark building, Tony Stark was fighting the Cherita Stars on the street. 3 minutes. Commander Nick's voice sounded. It will destroy the entire city. JARVIS, all energy is sent to the propeller. Tony said. It's finished. JARVIS's voice sounded. Immediately, Tony flew high into the sky. On the other side, Li Wei took Loki and leapt to the Stark building. Natasha Romanoff and Dr. Eric, who have woken up, are trying to close the portal. To close the Tesseract portal, you must use Loki's scepter. Dr. Eric said. Yeah, at this moment, a scepter fell under Dr. Eric's feet. Are you talking about this? The scepter was naturally Li Wei Du. Natasha Romanoff picked up the energy scepter and plunged into the energy shield of the Tesseract teleporter. I can close it. Natasha Romanoff struggled, piercing the energy scepter into the teleporter shield. Quickly close it. The captain's voice sounded. No, wait, Tony said. Tony, can't wait any longer. There are more and more enemies, the captain said. We have a nuclear bomb here and it will explode in a minute or two. I know where to let it go. Nuclear bomb. Tony, you know, you may never go back. Steve's tone became heavy. Use all the energy to turn, JARVIS. Tony said. Sir, do you want to contact Miss Potts? JARVIS's voice sounded. Connect. Chapter 143 Chapter 140 Open black lens bracket The Avengers Carnival close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. On an aeroplane, Pepper Potts, who was contacted by Iron Man, was on it, and she and several assistants were watching the battle in New York City nervously. In fact, it is not just them, the whole world is paying attention to this battle. The streets of New York City have become battlefields. The military has arrived and is trying to control the situation, but they are not opponents at all. I have to say that I have never seen such a scene in my career. On TV, a live broadcast of the New York City battle is being broadcast. It can be seen that in the portal above Manhattan, a steady stream of alien legions are pouring out. In the video, when Iron Man successfully rushed into the portal with a nuclear bomb, all the people in the world who were following this alien invasion were enjoying it roar. After sending the nuclear bomb to the alien spacecraft, Iron Man ran out of all energy. Boom. There was a bang, and the alien mothership emitted a dazzling light, and Tony Stark fell down with satisfaction. In the city, the fire blazed into the sky. The area of Manhattan, which had already recovered, was once again devastated. Look, it's Tony. When the portal above the Stark building was about to close, a figure flew out, Iron Man Tony Stark. Wait, Tony didn't slow down. At this moment, Thor saw the problem, and everyone's hearts suddenly rose. It looks like he needs help. When Thor shook his hammer and was about to fly up to catch Iron Man, a burly figure flew into the air and hugged Iron Man and jumped to the ground. Steve stepped forward quickly and took Tony's helmet off. Is Tony okay? Hawkeye asked. Roar. Hulk roared, and Tony Stark was suddenly awakened. Advertisement. It looks like he's okay. Captain Steve shrugged. Is it over? Tony looked around. It's over, it's all over. Steve looked at the dilapidated city, the streets that had been reduced to ruins. On the street, there are embarrassed figures who participated in the war: Spider-Man, Venom, Electro-Optical Man, Sandman, Thor, Hawkeye Barton, Hulk. 3 days after the alien invasion in New York City ended, people's enthusiasm for discussing Avengers has not faded. For this fourth superhero group that emerged after the Association of Heroes, Fantastic Four, and X-Men, Avengers was a fledgling, but its reputation once surpassed the Fantastic Four and X-Men. After all, this time the Avengers are fighting against aliens, the enemy from God's domain, the god Loki in the myth and legend. In comparison, the records of X-Men and Fantastic Four seem a bit embarrassing. Manhattan. Stark Building. No, this is the name 3 days ago. Now this towering building in Manhattan has been renamed the Avengers Building. Tony Stark, the rich and handsome Iron Man, used this mansion as the home base of the Avengers to punish evil. Tonight, in New York, in the Avengers Building, there is a world-class carnival party. This is the cocky Tony Stark proposed. Even though Manhattan is dilapidated, there are still thousands of people from all over the world gathered here to enjoy the fireworks display that night outside the Avengers Building. Definitely, this is not the main purpose of this trip. They came to see that Avengers, another superhero organization born in this world. Advertisement. Tony Stark is very satisfied with this mighty effect. Captain America will speak as the representative of the Avengers. There are 6 figures on the grand stage. Captain America Steve is standing in the middle, beside him are Iron Man Tony, Thor, Invincible Hulk Banner, Black Widow Natasha Romanoff, Hawkeye Barton. New York City, from now on, this will be your home. Captain America delivered a speech. Let it fade away from the concept of the city. This is a part of the world. This is a free country, and we are a group of people who advocate freedom. If you choose to live in this free place, you will hear a word, that is Avengers, rally. This style is very Tony. Li Wei sat in the front row of the guest seats with his hands on his chest and complained. As a friendly organization of Avengers, the Heroes Association was also invited to participate in the establishment of Avengers. The Avengers Building. Internal meeting room. 2 members of the superhero organization sat there to celebrate. After this alien invasion, everyone was considered comrade in arms. Sitting at both ends of the long table were Li Wei and Captain America, with other members sitting on either side. Why didn't you stop me when I was speaking? I think what I said was a bit exaggerated. Steve said. I like you like this, Captain, Hawkeye said. This is cool, Captain. I like the concept of home you mentioned. I'm your good neighbor Spider-Man. Spider-Man hung in the air and said. Listen, Steve, your speech is very good. Really, but please don't really open the Avengers Mansion to the public as a shelter and relief center. Iron Man Tony said. Tony, you are jealous. Li Wei interjected. What am I jealous of? Who am I? I am Iron Man, and only others are jealous of me. Tony said. Advertisement. Come on, Tony, we all know you are not the one you are jealous of giving the speech. Thor made a supplement. After the Avengers Carnival, the Avengers went their separate ways. Thor takes the defeated Loki and Tesseract back to the Asgard, Invincible Hulk, in order to control his anger and avoid hurting others. He also chooses to wander himself and find the way to redemption. And the superheroes of the Heroes Association have also begun their daily life of fighting criminals. In the waters off Rainbow Island, a warship is mooring on the sea. There were not many people on the warship, and the 2 figures were fishing leisurely. One is Li Wei, and the other is Doctor Strange. I have a good meal tonight. Stephen pulled the fishing rod and another fish took the bait. The bucket behind him was full of fish. In contrast, Li Wei, there are only a few in the bucket that can be counted by the naked eye. Doctor, you didn't cheat by magic. Li Wei Yuguang aimed at Stephen. Li, not everything needs magic. There is a price to use magic. Stephen said. The current Stephen is no longer a hell demon who has appeared in the world, and he needs Li Wei's help to solve it. He is Doctor Strange, one of the top magician in the world. Together with Sorcerer Supreme, his teacher, he protects the world from dark forces. Gained a powerful magical power, Stephen also knew the cost of using magic. And the reason Stephen came to Li Wei this time, in addition to retelling the past, was because of the invasion of God's domain man Loki. He wanted to set up an organization to defend the world. This organization exists to fight against world-class hazards and even galaxy-level hazards. It's just that Steven only has this idea, and he doesn't have a complete idea yet. Chapter 144 Chapter 141 Open black lens bracket Namor, King of the Seven Seas close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. 1 month after the alien invasion of New York City. A small island in America's territorial waters. There are countless warships moored in the sea around this small island. On a hill on the small island, the view here is very good, and the sea scenery is unobstructed. On the hill, there are two figures. One of them is Li Wei. The other person is the king of Atlantis, Namor. Half a month ago, Namor came to this small island and declared that the small island belongs to the territory of Atlantis. This kind of robbery made the American government very angry and immediately sent an army to fight with Namor. Even Namor's old comrade, Captain America, also came, but none of them was an opponent of Namor. At the moment Namor holds a trident and possesses this artifact, Namor truly becomes the king of the seven seas. Finally, S.H.I.E.L.D. found Li Wei for help. For the sake of the director of the stewed eggs, Li Wei is here. Now Avengers. Thor is far away in Asgard, the Invincible Hulk banner is missing, Iron Man cannot be contacted, Captain America Steve, Hawkeye Barton and Black Widow Natasha Romanoff are obviously not the opponents of Namor. Should we talk after a fight? Or should we talk after a fight? Li Wei looked at Namor in front of him. This guy is completely different from the last time he met, and his aura is much stronger. I don't know if it is the reason for the trident in his hand, or if he was originally strong again. Humph. After a cold snort, Namor turned and flew into the air. Advertisement. Hey, wait. Li Wei stretched out his hand, but Namor had disappeared into the distant sky. This guy. Li Wei helplessly. He didn't come here simply to help the director of the bitter egg, he was not so kind. Li Wei just heard that Namor had obtained the Seagud's halberd and simply wanted to find Namor for a fight. He didn't expect this guy to be so persuaded that he would not want to fight with Li Wei even if his strength became stronger. Captain Steve and Hawkeye in the distance breathed a sigh of relief. During the 10 minutes of confrontation between Li Wei and Namor, they were wary of abnormalities. If the two guys can't agree to fight, it is estimated that this small island will be affected, and this small island may be sunk. Back on Rainbow Island, Li Wei felt a little regretful. I thought that Inamo's temperament would definitely fight him, but the facts disappointed him a bit. Not many people stay on the island, only Sandman Mark and Venom Eddie. After the Loki invasion, Miles and Venom Eddie have become full members of the Heroes Association. It is estimated that Peter is now leading the Spiderweb Warriors squad to fight the Spider Slayer. Max doesn't know where to steal the electricity. This guy turns into an electric current and moves fast in the city. From one city to another, Max can be there in almost a few minutes. If in the city of New York City, the hero Spider-Man is more famous than him. But if you put it in the entire America, Max's reputation is much greater than that of Spider-Man. In addition to the title of Dianguangren, this guy is now called Dianwang, the criminal nemesis. As for Green Goblin Harry, besides operating the Osborn Group, his biggest interest is to improve his ability. His Green Goblin suit is different from Iron Man's battle suit. The Green Goblin suit may not have as strong firepower as the Iron Man battle suit, but the Green Goblin suit has a technology that Iron Man does not have, that is, healing ability. When Harry was infected with spider venom, it was because of this cure that ability survived. Advertisement. Moreover, Harry did not rely solely on the Green Goblin suit. After being strengthened by spider venom, he obtained a mutant super ability, possessing Superman's strength and speed, and could easily lift more than 10 tons of heavy objects. So now only Mark Sandman and Venom are left on the island, and there is also Li Wei who has been missing all day. Bucky Stan. In a luxurious villa, a man sits on a soft leather sofa. Beside the man, there stood 5 or 6 men in black wearing sunglasses. The man on the sofa is Aldrich Killian. His purpose here today is to meet the people, or organizations, who have funded his research for more than 10 years. The mysterious organization that funded him behind the scenes is so huge that it can at least support his research for more than a decade, but the funding chain has never been broken. Now this organization wants to see him because his research has been successful. Killian doesn't know who these people are, but it seems they won't be good people. All of these men in black have guns on their bodies, and their eyes reveal a fierce light. This is the gaze that only those who kill people can't blink. At this time, the door opened. A group of heavily armed men came in. Hello, you are Aldrich Killian. A man walked over enthusiastically. Yes, I am Killian. Aldrich Killian was a little surprised, this guy is too enthusiastic. It's a great honor to meet you. I've heard of the doctor's name a long time ago, but I only saw it today. It's a shame. The man shook hands with Aldrich Killian enthusiastically. This is Naibu. Doctor, I heard that your research was successful. The man named Naibu asked. Yes, it succeeded. Advertisement. If needed, we can make super soldiers right away. Aldrich Killian said excitedly when it came to his research. Definitely, we have always believed in you, otherwise we will not fund your research for more than 10 years. Nab said, presumably you are also very curious about our organization. Definitely. Aldrich Killian nodded. We are. Naibu approached Aldrich Killian and said 3 words in Killian's ear that surprised him. Aldrich Killian looked at the man beside him in astonishment. Even if he was a researcher who didn't hear anything outside the window, he had heard of this famous organization, or it was notorious. But it doesn't matter. As long as he can fund his research, it doesn't matter who it is to him. Aldrich Killian, I am here today to tell you good news. Naibu said. From today, our organization will do everything in human, financial and material resources to help you. You can use your research to do what you want. Killian was a little puzzled. He shook his head and said, I don't understand what you mean. Nab continued. Meaning, you will be one of us. As soon as he finished speaking, Nabu took out a ring from his arms. He said, this is a ring that represents power, status, and supremacy. As long as you have it, you are one of us. From now on, you can use your research to do whatever you want. Although he didn't know the purpose behind this organization, Killian didn't bother to think about it. Anyway, this organization has always funded his research, and everything he has is given by this organization, even if they want to harm themselves, it's easy. They definitely have their goals, but it doesn't matter, as long as they don't stop funding his research. After Aldrich Killian left, Neb lit a cigarette and a man in a suit sat on the sofa. Men in suits have yellow skin, dark eyes, and Asian characteristics, but they are not pure Asians, but mixed races. Chapter 145 Chapter 142 Open black lens bracket mark 42 The prodigal son close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Why do you want to do this? Neb asked. There is an idiom in my hometown, the strong one is easy to break, and the soft one lasts forever, the man said. Seeing Nebu's puzzled expression, the man in the suit explained, we are too high profile recently. SHIELD has been investigating us, sweeping away our strongholds all over the world. The Heroes Association has also been collecting our information. If this continues, it will be detrimental to our plan. We need someone in front to help us attract their attention. What we have to do is to hide it. This person is the best choice. Mount Everest, a place off the beaten track. Perennial white snow and fluttering flag clouds. The towering Mount Everest is magnificent and majestic. Within a range of 20 kilometers around it, there are numerous peaks and mountainous obstacles. The minimum temperature at the top of the peak is -30 or 40 degrees Celsius. The snow does not melt on the mountain, and glaciers, ice slopes, and ice tower forests can be seen everywhere. Boom. Suddenly, there was a bang in this quiet snow-white place. In such a lofty snow-capped mountain, any sound is fatal, let alone the sound that resounds through the sky. Sure enough, the snow-capped mountains fell and caused an avalanche. Rumble. Avalanche roared, as if to drown everything. In the sky, a golden figure shone constantly. The golden figure leapt towards another mountain, not someone else but Li Wei. Behind Li Wei, a scarlet whirlpool appeared, and a guy covered with ice scum walked out. Dr. Strange, Steve, Strange. Roar. A roar sounded, and a huge snow giant appeared on the mountain above the avalanche. Advertisement. Doctor, have you got it? Li Wei asked Stephen behind him. Roar roar. Stephen Roar let out a cold breath and shook his head tremblingly, no. This artifact has a magical guardianship, so it seems that I am not destined. Stephen said. It is not a predestined person, but in fact it is not strong enough. It looks like we have suffered this sin for nothing. Li Wei Roar let out a cold breath. The temperature in this place is -30 or 40 degrees, even if he puts on a battle suit, Li Wei can't stand it. The battle suit can protect Li Wei's body from the cold, but it cannot eliminate the perception of cold. Li Wei won't be frozen or hurt a bit, but he will still feel the icy feeling. Doctor Strange has the protection of magical instruments, but his appearance is probably similar to Li Wei. A month ago, Li Wei and Doctor Strange embarked on a thrilling adventure on the Earth. This time is different from the last time Doctor Strange pestered Li Wei, this time it was Li Wei who pestered Doctor Strange and must take him. For a month, Li Wei was really boring. He is very eager for his opponent to make him feel lonely from time to time. Li Wei is a person who is afraid of loneliness, but this kind of loneliness accompanies him. So Li Wei went to Doctor Strange. In order to find magical artifacts, Doctor Strange often ventured in the most precarious places on the Earth, and Li Wei became more interested when he knew about it. During this month, Li Wei and Doctor Strange traveled to every place on the Earth full of legends of gods and monsters. The weird ancient golden country of South America, the mysterious Hanging Garden of Babylon, and even an unknown continent undiscovered by the world today. There is a magical monument on Mount Everest. Stephen learned that a magician was sleeping here, leaving behind a magic weapon. It's a pity that Stephen didn't even see the shadow. The snow giant on the mountain peak in the distance is the Asgardian of this magical monument. The snow giant is a product of magic. As long as the magic is not destroyed, the snow giant will reunite even if it is killed. Let's go. Our next goal, Chimborazo Mountain. Advertisement. Malibu Beach. There is a luxurious villa on the cliff by the sea, which belongs to Iron Man Tony Stark. Since the Loki incident, aliens and other dimensions have entered Tony's field of vision, and a brand new cognition has impacted Tony's world. Tony often feels anxious because he is just a human wearing a steel battle suit. Although the incident was over, he could not let go. Even in his sleep, Tony often wakes up from nightmares. He felt that the crisis was everywhere, and he had to protect the most important things in his life. In the villa, the Basement Research Institute. Tony had locked himself here for 7 days and nights, and he hadn't left here even when he was eating. The micro-repeater chip implantation is complete. Tony looked at the mark on his arm, he wiped the blood off with a tissue, and he finally succeeded. The microchip implanted in his arm is used to control his newly manufactured steel battle suit Mark 42, the Prodigal Son. This new armor has the ability to be assembled automatically, can be controlled remotely, and is named the Prodigal Son. The color scheme is light gold and dark red, and Tony wants to try new colors. Mark 42 is the latest development of Tony, and it is currently Tony's strongest steel battle suit. Among them, special ceramic materials are added, which has a very strong defense ability. In terms of weapons, in addition to all the weapons of the previous battle suit, it is also equipped with electromagnetic weapons, which can shock the enemy and release the weak electric current to prevent people from getting out of their hands. Ladies, welcome to the party. Tony walked to the weapon stand, and in front of him was a steel battle suit. Mark 15 Sneaky, Mark 16 Nightclub, Mark 17 Heartbreaker, Mark 18 Casanova, Mark 19 Tiger. Mark 41 Skeleton until. I want to introduce to you all of your newly born bad embryos. Advertisement. Mark 42 The Prodigal Son. Mark 42, Automatic Combination Test. Tony said. Start the test program. The voice of Jarvis sounded. By the way, some music Jarvis. Tony said. Tony reached out, but Mark 42 who fell apart on the table seemed to be unresponsive. Tony reached out his hand again, still no response. Come on. Tony patted his arm, and he reached out again, and the palm of the Mark 42 steel battle suit flew over and closed in his hand. Shoo. The shoulders and arms flew towards Tony, joining his body. Tony was very satisfied with the effect. He said, okay, let's all come together. Whoosh. A part rushed towards Tony's head, and he hurriedly reached out to block it. Several more parts flew around, breaking the glass of the steel battle suit behind him. It's too fast, slow it down a bit, Tony said. Jarvis, can you slow down? Not long after, all the parts fit on Tony. Tony looked forward, there was only one mask. Well, it's only you. The mask flew towards Tony, but hit the table and turned around. Tony leapt hurriedly, closing his mask head down. Iron Man, start. The data appeared in Tony's field of vision. Very good, the prodigal. Tony walked out of the steel battle suit, his gaze fixed on another steel battle suit not far away. This steel battle suit is a bit more burly than other battle suits, and the color is dark red and dark yellow. A yellow figure flashed in Tony's mind. This suit was named by Tony Mark 43, Supernatural Power Man. It was created when he saw two guys like Li Wei and Hulk who had terrifying physical damage. Chapter 146 Chapter 143. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Mark 43, Supernatural Power. Tony borrowed from Captain Steve's vibranium shield, which can reduce kinetic energy. Mark 43 The armor of the Superior has such a design, so the vibranium shield has a strong defensive ability. In contrast, her firepower will be much reduced. While reducing the corresponding firepower, Tony doubled her defenses in order to defend against super fighters like Li Wei. At the same time, the steel battle suit is designed with a combined structure and comes with a flight equipment library. In case of damage, the damaged part can be separated and new spare parts can be used. Next to Mark 43 Superman, is Mark 44 Anti-Hulk armor. This steel battle suit is more burly and huge, which is designed to deal with the monster Hulk, and the design structure is the same as Mark 43 Superman. Although Li Wei and Hulk are not enemies, such an enemy may appear someday in the future. So Tony has to make up for every weakness in him and make him invulnerable. This way he can deal with all crises and protect everything he wants to protect. Rainbow Island. In the lobby of the villa, Peter is typing on the computer, Gwen is eating snacks, and Eddie is exercising with dumbbells. At this time, a scarlet vortex appeared in the hall, and two embarrassed figures ran out of it. Quickly close him. Li Wei's hurried voice sounded. Steven immediately closed the portal, and two monsters rushing towards the two of them were cut off by the portal, and the parts above the chest appeared in the hall. Advertisement. Even though only half of their bodies remained, the two monsters were still roaring with staring eyes, and it took half a minute to breathe. After 2 or 3 months, the adventures of Li Wei and Doctor Strange are over. The monster they met this time seemed to be a monster in an alien magical space. The two accidentally opened the magic seal and fell into it. These monsters could not be killed, and in the end, the two had to give up their adventure and ran home. The two of them were covered with some green, scarlet, viscous liquid, and a stench wafted over the villa, and several people in the house fled out like they were disgusted. After half an hour, the two of Li Wei washed them, and the smell finally became less pungent. Li, show you something. At this time, Peter handed the computer to Li Wei. This was discovered by accident when I scanned the island with a spacecraft last month. I found some fascinating things under the sea area of the island. There is some kind of superstructure of a building on the bottom of the sea. Peter said. Then I scanned it carefully and found that there were not only architectural structures, but also a lot of traces of human activities. You mean, there are a lot of human activities under the sea area of our small island? Li Wei looked at Peter. Not bad. Peter nodded, but it is not ruled out that it is not a human, but a creature that is currently unknown to humans. Yuanfang, Peter, what do you think? Li Wei asked. I'm definitely going to explore, I'm ready for a diving suit. Peter said with some excitement, no matter what the possibility, we all need to go down. Alright, let's go and see who the hell is doing the trick below. Li Wei said. After half an hour, Li Wei, Peter, Eddie, and Gwen dived into the sea. These diving suits are specially made by Harry, and they can resist the water pressure on the bottom of the sea. Inside the diving suit, Peter's voice sounded. As the four of them dived, the light in the sea became dimmed. There is a trench under the seabed, and the stone walls of these gullies are very regular and seem to have traces of man-made changes. Advertisement. The four continued to dive into the trench. Look at it. Peter's voice attracted the three of them. Under the light of his searchlight, there was a regular steel texture on the trench wall, but it was very old. At this moment, a black shadow flashed not far from the front. Li Wei and Peter discovered for the first time that the two of them swam over, only to find that the shadows disappeared. What was that just now? Peter asked. It should be some kind of fish. Li Wei said. The four continued to advance along the trench, and a sunken ship appeared in front of them. Looking at how old this ship is, it should be a sinking 100 years ago. Peter said. The four continued to move forward. At this moment, several human-shaped shadows appeared in front of them. Li Wei's toes were a little bit in the sea, and the whole person turned into a water arrow and rushed over. In an instant, Li Wei came to a few humanoid figures. Li Wei stretched his hand forward and grabbed a human-shaped shadow. At this time, the remaining humanoid shadows attacked Li Wei. Human-shaped shadows appeared under the searchlight, and Li Wei also saw these human-shaped shadows clearly. These dark shadows are not humans at all, but some kind of mermaid creatures, with a pale blue skin, a body similar to a human, and a head like an eel. These merfolk took their forks and attacked Li Wei. Li Wei swam over and kicked a mermaid away directly. This is still Li Wei only uses a little force, or he can kick the mermaid with one kick. Seeing that it was not Li Wei's opponent, several merfolk headed down the trench. As this a man from the bottom of the sea. Peter and the three swam over and looked at the mermaid caught in Li Wei's hands. The three were surprised. In the three people's cognition, the undersea people belong to the legendary creatures. I don't know, let's follow up and see what's going on. With that, Li Wei grabbed the mermaid and Peter in his hands and continued to dive into the trench. Advertisement. Is it a native of Atlantis? Peter said. The mysterious and unknown Atlantis is still very famous in the world. As the four people sneaked in, the bottom of the trench was not dim, with a large number of radiant seabed plants, or some transparent and luminous stones. Look, there are simple buildings on the walls of this trench. Peter said in surprise. As soon as the voice fell, dense mermaid appeared around. These merfolk held weapons and stared at the four people with bad eyesight. But to the four humans of Li Wei, these mermaids seemed to be an expression. Humans, what purpose do you have here? At this moment, a voice sounded and a mermaid swam forward. What surprised the four of Li Wei was that the mermaid spoke several human languages, one of which was English. We came here without malicious intent. Peter adjusted the sound of the diving suit so that the mermaid could hear it outside. I just found your activity, so I went down to check it out. Really? Come with me, the mermaid said, and he swam towards the trench ahead. Where are they taking us? The four of them followed the mermaid closely, and the timid Gwen asked, who followed closely behind Li Wei. At the end of the trench, there is a huge amounts of stone building, which resembles a temple-like architectural style. The mermaid here is even more numerous, densely packed, and the talking mermaid led the four Li Wei directly into the building. In the building, some mermaids are sitting in it. These mermaids obviously belong to the aristocratic class, and they wear simple costumes. This is like the largest sushi restaurant in the world, Eddie said suddenly. They seem to be the royal family of mermaid. At this time, Peter's voice made the four of them look forward. At the end of the hall, there are 3 thrones. Chapter 147. Chapter 147. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Hello, humans. I am Al Erha, the regent of Atlantis, the king of Erhal. Welcome to the kingdom of Atlantis, said the mermaid on the throne in the middle. Atlantis. Hasn't it been destroyed? There are still remains on the bottom of the sea, Peter said in surprise. Child, Atlantis is the sea. As long as there is water and life in it, there will be people who rule them. This is the simplest truth of things. There are 3 races in front of you, only 3 have survived the day of destruction. We all have different cultures and different laws, but in this case, one person has the right to speak on behalf of all of us. I, speaking on behalf of the entire kingdom and all its people, who of you speaks on behalf of humanity, said the regent Aloha. I'm sorry, our society is not what you think. No one can represent human beings alone, Li Wei said. But, Li Wei turned around. I am the landlord above your sea area, and I have the right to speak with you on behalf of the people above. Rainbow Island is his private, the people, for the time being, he is the only one. Then what's the purpose of your coming here? Regent Al Erha asked. We are not malicious, the timid Gwen explained repeatedly. According to international territorial and territorial water treaties, your sea area is my private territory. Li Wei said. But, humans, your laws seem to be useless with us. Moreover, as long as it is the sea, it is the realm of Atlantis. That's why we came down to negotiate how to satisfy both of us. Advertisement. I believe that war, this is something neither of us would like to see. Li Weidao. Regent Al Erha nodded in agreement, and he ordered the guards to bring the 3 Li Wei's natural stone chairs. So, human beings, if it is in your human way, how can you solve it? The regent asked. The solution is also simple, that is, you pay me the corresponding remuneration. It is equivalent to leasing this sea area to you, Li Wei said. But human beings, we don't have the money you humans use. Regent Al Erha said. There is a lot of gold in this simple, vast deep ocean. You people in Atlanta can move freely in the deep ocean. I believe you can find dozens of tons of gold and give it to me every year, Lord, it shouldn't be difficult. Li Wei said. This was what he suddenly thought of. When he came, Li Wei saw gold hidden in the silt in the trench. It would be great if he could fool the Atlanteans to salvage gold for him all over the world. Although his current money is too much to use up, if someone gives him gold for free, he will not refuse. Gold. Regent Al Erha thought it was something precious, this kind of stone is not precious to them. Human, I promise your terms. However, in return, you have to promise me a condition. Regent Al Erha said. You say, human, return to the place where you came to announce to the world that Atlantis is back. That's it, Li Wei asked. Definitely. In a turn of events, as the first human beings to visit Atlantis, the 4 of Li Wei were warmly received by the Mermaid Kingdom. This underwater journey was not without gain, at least the ancient ruins of the Kingdom of Atlantis were discovered. Li Wei also fooled the group of Murlocs to help him salvage gold, not to make too much money. Li, is the international territorial and territorial agreement you said true? Peter asked suddenly. Advertisement. Who knows? After the 4 of Li Wei left, the 3 kings of Atlantis were in the meeting room. One of them asked. Regent, what is your purpose? Have you heard? Namor is back, said the regent. Heard. We will need humans. 2 wins in 3 games, yeah, I won. The next day, Gwen was jumping in the hall with joy. In the TV, the blood volume of the fighting character selected by Li Wei has reached the bottom, and the 2 bloody characters, fail, are extremely dazzling. This is unscientific, I have been practicing techniques recently. Li Wei felt a little depressed. He turned off the game and turned on the TV. Li Wei has no interest in TV dramas, he only likes to watch movies occasionally. At this moment, the TV was forced to play a video. In the background, it should be the war-torn Middle East. Li Wei has been there several times and has some understanding of the characteristics there. Some people call me a terrorist, and I feel like a teacher. As the voice of a little old man fell, his men shot and killed innocent people. American, are you ready for another lesson? In the Shaxi massacre in Colorado in 1864, the U.S. Army waited until the Cheyenne warriors went out to hunt before launching an attack, killing the Cheyenne tribe and occupying their land. 39 hours ago, the Ali Air Base in Kuwait was attacked and I did it. There is a church in the base, which is full of military wives and children. The soldiers go out for exercises, and the warriors are not at home. President Ellis, he kept ignoring my message. This time he still didn't catch me. He paid for it. Advertisement. In the video, a man in a suit was tied to a cross, and the flames swallowed his body. You know who I am, but you don't know where I am. You can't predict my next step. After saying this, the TV returned to normal. Seeing this video, Li Wei knew that this is the story of Iron Man 3. Mandarin and Iron Man Tony Stark's love and hatred. But in fact, Mandarin in the video is fake. He is just a puppet. It is a scientist who really controls everything behind the scenes, the scientist who developed Extremis. This scientist is the head of the terrorist Ten Rings. But Li Wei didn't think so. Combining his several confrontations with Ten Rings, he believes that the chief scientist in this secret place is probably still a puppet, and the real Ten Rings chief Mandarin is still hidden behind him. Definitely, this is just Li Wei's guess. On television, various television stations immediately reported on the terrorists' video. We will sort out the development of this horrific event for you, this terrorists' provocative declaration, so that all American television will be covered. The country maintains a high level of vigilance. It is still impossible to track Mandarin's whereabouts. Let us see how the government responded to this incident. The U.S. White House, military officials are speaking to the news media. We resolutely combat terrorist attacks and put in the latest weapons. He is Colonel Rhodes, and the American people will soon call him the Steel Patriot. The Iron Patriot went to the Middle East immediately and wiped out the terrorists. In the video, an Iron Man appears. Ting bell. At this moment, Li Wei's cell phone rang, and the name on the cell phone displayed number 2. Chapter 148 Chapter 145 Steel Patriot seeking subscription for monthly pass. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Say. Li Wei connected the phone. R2 intelligence teams in the middle movement area were removed. A low voice came. 10 Rings did it? Li Wei asked. In the Middle East, there is only 10 Rings who hates the Heroes Association and has the strength to fight against it. Yes. Try to collect their information, I will deal with it later. Li Wei hung up the phone. Since the last time 10 Rings was attacked and several secret bases of 10 Rings were wiped out, 10 Rings had no news. I did not expect it to jump out again this time. It seems that they not only provoke the US government, but also provoke the Heroes Association. Contacting the story of Iron Man 3, 10 Rings should have Extremis, otherwise it would not be so arrogant. It just happened to be boring recently, 10 Rings unexpectedly delivered it to the door. Go on, little Gwen, and take you on a trip to the Middle East. What's so fun out there? Much more fun, such as Dubai, United Arab Emirates. There are large shopping malls there, and any of your spending during the travel period counts as mine. There are also large resorts, Sharm el-Sheikh, located between the Sinai Peninsula Desert and the Red Sea, with vast sandy beaches and clear waters, as well as beautiful island style. It's just wonderful. How about, go or not? Advertisement. Go. Definitely go. Hearing shopping, Gwen's eyes flashed instantly. But you seem to have to go to class. It's okay. Anyway, the teacher taught me almost. There is nothing wrong with leaving for a few days. When will we go? Go tomorrow. Hurrah. The next day. Afghanistan. Boom. There was an explosion, and I saw countless terrorists armed with guns fighting Iron Man. No, it's not Iron Man, it seems to be the Steel Patriot launched by the US government military. Boom rumble. The Steel Patriot was fiercely fired, a miniature missile was shot out, and suddenly a swarm of terrorists disappeared into the flames. MKMP-5, just like in Mumbai, where did these guys get such firepower? Oh my god, that's a black hole grenade. A black vortex appeared in front of him, and the Iron Patriot immediately flew away. Sir, this is Rod, I was attacked by MP-5 fire again. Almost the same as in India and northern Sudan, there are military-grade rocket launchers, and black hole grenades. Rod was startled by the firepower of the terrorists. I bet you with my career. It must be the same source of wealth and good supply supporting the activities of these terrorists. They have no pattern in ideology and geographic location, but these guys are under the command of 10 Rings. There must be their conspiracy behind this. But I can't find anything that can be traced. What I can say is that they all acted alone as grassroots organizations. The highest-ranking people in the grassroots organizations are in contact with other grassroots organizations alone, and the clues have never been connected to 10 rings. But I am very sure that the groups of terrorists I eliminated in this war-torn place are definitely under the command of 10 rings. Colonel Rod, be careful. At this time, the commander's voice sounded from Rod's communicator. What's the matter? Rod asked. Advertisement. A few gunship helicopters are flying towards you, the commander said. Are these terrorists so well equipped? As soon as Rod's voice fell, the intense firepower covered him. Whoosh. A rocket fired over and blasted the Steel Patriot out. Boom bang bang. Just as Rod was about to launch an attack, the fire on the helicopter immediately suppressed him. Colonel Rod, please pay attention, something seems to be rushing towards you. At this time, the commander's surprised voice sounded. Damn, his speed is so fast, it's a human weapon, is it Iron Man? Iron Man? No, impossible, I know where Iron Man is now, he can't be here. Rod said, it's not Iron Man, it's a person. The commander was shocked. Sir, are you kidding me? Rod said. Boom. As soon as Rod's voice fell, a golden light blasted through the air and penetrated from a helicopter. Boom. The helicopter crashed directly to the ground and exploded. At this time, the golden light flashed by again, and another helicopter was penetrated and fell from the air. Rhodes, it's confirmed that he is a human being. Damn, his speed is so fast. The commander's startled voice sounded. Rumble. An explosion sounded, and within a few words, the helicopters in the sky were all destroyed. I know, sir, I saw it. Luo responded. He did see that Jin Guang was a human being, but the speed was so fast that he couldn't see clearly. Boom. The rubble splashed, and the golden light fell in front of Colonel Rod. No one else, it was Li Wei. Tony. Li Wei asked. Advertisement. No, it's not Tony, that guy probably wouldn't choose this bad color. Tony murmured. Hello, I am a Steel Patriot. Rod said. Well, Iron Patriot, goodbye. Li Wei was on the ground, and his whole body soared into the sky. In the sky, a fighter plane emerged. Li Wei entered the fighter plane with an agitated Gwen on his seat. Let's go. Let's travel. Li Wei's words fell, and Gwen's pouting mouth finally eased. Next, the two went to a large shopping mall in Dubai, and then went to a few more suitable places for tourism. After Gwen was satisfied, Li Wei began to act again. This time, Li Wei glanced at the information given to him by the intelligence team, in Hong Kong. It took a few hours to travel from the Middle East to Hong Kong. Coincidentally, Li Wei met the Steel Patriot again here. This guy has the same purpose as his, and he is also fighting 10 rings. Mandarin's provocation to the US government has disgraced the military, and the Steel Patriots all the way from the Middle East to Hong Kong. Boom bang bang, a burst of fierce fire, sparks flashing on the Steel Patriot. Whoosh, a miniature missile charged towards the terrorist. Boom, there was an explosion, and countless terrorists were drowned in the flames. Soon, the terrorists here in 10 rings were wiped out. Report, sir, the terrorists have been eliminated. Rod said. I have been sabotaging their actions for several days, 10 rings are not stupid, they know I am looking for them. But they don't have any weapons that can delay me, which means that this incident is actually a blindfold, a trap. Lord guessed right, this is indeed a trap. A rocket hit the Steel Patriot, blasting him out. My mouth, next time remind me not to talk nonsense. Lord's voice sounded. Chapter 149 Chapter 146 Extremists seeking subscription for monthly pass. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. There were only 4 people in the 10 rings ambush. As soon as they came out, they launched a fierce attack. Whoosh. Rockets rushed towards Li Wei, his figure flickered, and Li Wei disappeared in place. The Iron Patriot got up from the ground, the engine started, and he rushed towards the enemy. The weapon system aimed, fired, and instantly killed 4 enemies. Wait. At this moment, Rod was surprised to find that the 4 enemies killed just now stood up from the ground again. These guys were glowing with flames in their bodies, and they were like okay people, and then they rushed towards him. Boom. The bullet shot at several guys, but it only stopped them from moving forward, and the guys were all right. At this time, the 4 enemies had rushed to the front of Rod. Rod flew up, only to find an enemy grab the Steel Patriot's leg. This guy was so powerful that he directly smashed the Iron Patriot to the ground. Rod quickly got up and hit the enemy with a punch. Dang. The Steel Patriot's fist was held by the enemy, and then Rod found that the enemy's arm was red, generating a very high temperature, and instantly burning the Steel Patriot's arm red. Damn it, what the hell are these guys? Rod was astonished. Who are these guys? At this time, the 4 enemies controlled the Steel Patriot. The data given to Rod by the Iron Patriot showed that the armor was severely damaged, and a scorching sensation passed through his body. It's over. Colonel Rod's only thought at this time. Boom. At this moment, a golden light flashed, an enemy flew out, and Li Wei appeared behind the Iron Patriot. Dot 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 dot. As this extremis, Li Wei looked at the guys whose bodies were shining red. It's almost the same as in the movie, it looks right. Advertisement. Extremis is a biological weapon that can make a person's body indestructible. Except for the head and heart being exploded, other attacks are almost non-fatal, with abnormal recovery ability. In the performance of the movie, an arm is interrupted, it can grow out instantly, and it can also generate extreme heat. An enemy attacked Li Wei. Li Wei raised his fist and struck out, and there was a harsh sonic boom in the air. The next moment, this guy's body burst open. The few remaining guys were frightened, and after looking at each other, Chi-Chi rushed towards Li Wei. Li Wei blasted out a punch, and the lives of several guys disappeared. Dot 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 dot. As this the mysterious East. After solving the 10 Rings personnel, Li Wei and Gwen walked on the streets of Hong Kong. Gwen started a big purchase again. Anyway, it wasn't her money that she spent, this time she must make Li bleed a lot. Oops, our money seems to be dollars. Li Wei said suddenly. Ah, what should I do? Gwen obviously couldn't put down the gold chain in her hand. There is a way, but what? Gwen asked. Li Wei stretched out his hand, and a piece of gold appeared in his palm. Buying gold with gold, I feel something is wrong. Boss, can you pay with this here? Li Wei pointed to a piece of gold in his palm. The store manager is a young woman in her 30s. She watched both Li Wei and Gwen warily. She had never seen anyone using gold to buy a gold chain, and she suspected that these two were liars. In the end, it was determined that the gold was real. They are all very professional personnel, and can basically tell the true and false of gold. Although strange, the sale was completed. After all, the gold Li Wei gave was more valuable than the gold chain they sold. After the last stop in Hong Kong, Li Wei and Gwen returned to New York. Advertisement. Li, are we dating? Suddenly, Gwen, who was drinking milk tea, turned his head and said to Li Wei. The milk tea in Li Wei's mouth almost squirted out. How can this be linked? But there seems to be some such feeling, no wonder Gwen thinks so kindly. In Gwen's expectant eyes, Li Wei looked at Gwen seriously and said, Gwen, I take you as a brother, but you only want to sleep with me. Go to hell. Gwen's small fist hammered Li Wei's chest. Cough cough, I'm about to vomit blood. Li Wei coughed deliberately, but Gwen was not weak. Especially when she was exerting force, these few small punches produced tons of power. At the same time, in a Chinese theater, a man is sitting outside the theater. He doesn't seem to be very calm in his heart, holding the cross on his neck with both hands. At this time, a man in a suit walked towards him. Can you control it? Shaven asked, the man in the suit. Yes, I can. Are you sure? Shaven said. Yes. Shaven nodded and handed a black box in his hand to the man. There are many in it. Shaven pointed to the black box. Hearing this, the man smiled. Don't say I didn't help you. Shaven said, then turned and left. Thank you, the man said, thank you for your understanding. Shaven didn't know, a fat man followed him. The fat man's name is Happy, Tony. Stark's former driver and bodyguard. Advertisement. After Tony became Iron Man, he is now Pepper's driver and bodyguard, and the safety director of Stark Building. Happy came with Shaven, who was an attendant of Aldrich Killian who came to Stark yesterday. He was able to become Iron Man's driver and bodyguard, which originally demonstrated the strength of Harpy. His keen observation told him that these guys are acting suspiciously. Happy walked over on purpose and bumped into the man who got the black box. The black box fell on the ground, and the things on the ground caught Happy's eyes. It seems nothing strange, just some iron pieces. But then Happy saw a scene that surprised him. There seemed to be some red light flowing under the skin of the man's face. Happy was surprised. After helping the man pick up something, he hurriedly turned and left, holding a piece of iron in his hand. At this moment, Shaven, who was in the distance, frowned when he saw this scene. Obviously, he was followed by Happy. If you let this guy know their secrets, it wouldn't be good. Shaven walked over and bumped into Harpy. Hey, what are you doing? Shaven pretended to recognize Harpy inadvertently. I'm alone. Or waiting for someone. Going to the movies. Yes. Harpy nodded. The title is, You're Over. It's played by you and your poisonous friend. This is the ticket. Harpy held up the iron piece dropped by the man just now. Listen, this is not your thing. Shaven reached out and grabbed Happy's arm. How could Happy give something to this suspicious guy? He punched Chauvin in the face. Harpy's strength is not small, and Shaven's nose was beaten to bleed. But to Harpy's surprise, Shaven's face was the same as the guy just now, with fire flowing under his skin, and the scar on the bridge of his nose disappeared. Happy was stunned. He attacked Shaven again, but Shaven grabbed his arm and threw it 7 or 8 meters away, hitting the wall severely. Is this guy still a human? Harpy felt his bones fall apart. Chapter 150, Chapter 147. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. At this time, the man who got the black box swallowed the iron piece inside. Then, his whole skin became transparent, and it seemed that there was fire flowing in it. The man trembled all over, and a burst of energy gushed from his body, seeming to burst his body. No, it's not like that. The man growled. Shaven, help me, help me. The man reached out to Shaven, the red light on his body was getting brighter and brighter. Help me. The man shouted, his mouth and pupils shining out of light. Then, it exploded. Boom. The outside of the theater was razed to the ground by the flames. Happy was lying on the ground, covered in blood. Shaven walked out of the ruins. Half of his body seemed to melt, and he walked out with a waning pace. As he walked out, his body gradually recovered. On the night of the theater explosion, Mandarin's provocation to the American government came again. Mr. President, you must have seen the flames of the explosion. I know it's very frustrating. The terrorist attack is coming to an end. Don't worry, the most important moment is coming, your graduation ceremony. Early the next morning, hospital. A doctor walked into the ward and checked that the patient's condition was normal. Before leaving, she was about to turn off the TV, but a voice surprised her. Hey, the owner of this voice was sitting in the ward, and the doctor didn't notice it when he came in. Can the TV be turned on? Tony Stark said. Definitely. The doctor recovered. Tony got up and watched the TV. He said, Downton Abbey on PTV on weekend nights. He likes this album. He thinks it's very elegant. One more thing, to wear a work badge, he cares about this kind of thing, my people will guard it outside. With that, Tony Stark walked out of the hospital. Advertisement. Although it was only in the morning, a group of reporters had surrounded the hospital. We are waiting for Tony Stark. We want to ask him what he thinks of this attack. Wait, Tony Stark is out. Mr. Stark, we believe this is Mandarin's attack. Does Mr. Stark have any thoughts? As soon as Tony was out of the hospital, a group of reporters surrounded him, blurting out various questions. Tony put on the magic mirror and walked to his car. Stark, when will someone kill him? At this moment, a reporter's words made Tony stop opening the door. Do you want to kill him? Tony looked at the reporter. I always wanted to leave a message for Mandarin, but I didn't know what to say until now. I'm Tony Stark. I'm not afraid of you. I know you are a coward, so I decided, you are dead, I will collect the body for you. This has nothing to do with politics, it's just revenge. It has nothing to do with the Pentagon, but you and me. If you are still a man, come to me. My address is 10,880 Malibu Beach. My door will not be locked. That's what you want. Tony snatched the phone used by the reporter to shoot and smashed it directly on the wall. I will pay you. After speaking, Tony got in the car and left. Rainbow Island. In the nearby sea, a figure stands on the surface of the sea. Advertisement. Feeling the speed of the sea breeze, Li Wei opened his eyes. Li Wei squatted down and touched the sea with his fist. Boom. In an instant, a huge crater appeared on the sea, and Li Wei rose up into the sky. Boom. A sound burst. Li Wei's speed broke through the speed of sound in an instant, and the resulting shockwave caused a huge noise. This is different from Yubu. Li Wei is flying in the air. As Li Wei ascended to high altitude, a lot of ice scum appeared on his body. Wow. Suddenly, Li Wei stunned roar and fell from the air. At the moment of contact with the sea, a loud burst sounded, and Li Wei leapt up again. It can be higher. Li Wei quickly lifted off, his speed getting faster and faster. Li, your flight speed has exceeded the speed of sound. In the earphones, Peter's voice came. Boom. With a loud roar, Li Wei speeded up again, and he had arrived over New York City. Not long after, Li Wei crossed New York City, made a circle, and returned to the sky over Rainbow Island. Roar, roar. The wind roared, and Li Wei flew parallel to the sea. Wherever he went, a long ravine appeared on the sea. Above the sea, a fighter plane was suspended. In the fighter plane, Peter and the electric guy are watching Li Wei in front of the screen. Li Wei fell from the air, hovering in front of the fighter, and his cloak was raised behind him. Li, I have prepared what you want. As Peter's voice sounded, Li Wei turned his head and looked at the surface of the sea thousands of meters behind him. A huge amounts of ball machine was suspended high in the sky. Li Wei looked at his fist, and then threw it out. Boom. With a boom, you can see that a transparent light beam that is almost negligible hits the past, exploding a sphere that is thousands of meters away. Advertisement. This transparent beam is almost invisible to the naked eye, just like a wave in the air. Li, Can you still compress your power? Peter said. There are also huge amounts of power spreading in the air. If you are in a city, your punch may not only hit the enemy, but also the surrounding streets. Turn to ashes. Come again. As soon as the voice fell, Peter fired a few orbs again and flew thousands of meters away. Boom, boom, boom. Li Wei threw out several punches, and the ball in the distance exploded again. Well, it's a little better than last time, there will still be a lot of power overflow. Peter said. Well, today's practice ends here. Some guests are here. After speaking, Li Wei flew towards Rainbow Island. The visitor on the island is Dr. Strange, Stephen Strange. Dr. Li Wei slowly landed in front of Stephen. Li, I have thought of what kind of organization to build. Stephen said, and with a wave of his hand, the Scarlet Vortex portal appeared. Entering the portal, Li Wei and Stephen came to the top of a snow-capped mountain. Doctor, can't you change the place you choose to talk to? Li Wei shivered as the cold wind blew. Li, I thought about it. The organization I want to establish is called the Illuminati, Shining, which represents hope. It is an organization that exists to protect the Earth and the galaxy. It exists to solve the crises that threaten the Earth and the universe. Li, personal power is always limited. Outside the Earth, there are many terrifying enemies that we cannot defeat. There are many people with great power on Earth. If we unite these people, we can face these crises. Stephen said. In the short time that Sorcerer Supreme guarded the magical world of the Earth, Stephen has seen many powerful enemies. Dormammu of the Dark Dimension, Mephisto, the Hell Lord, etc., are also powerful enemies in the universe of Yu. As long as these enemies appear on the Earth, it is a catastrophe. Chapter 151 Chapter 147 Establishment of the Illumination Society for subscription. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Unlike Sorcerer Supreme, Stephen's thinking is much more modern. Even if a person is strong, it is impossible to face these crises alone. All need a secret organization, an existence that can solve Earth-level threats and even level universe threats. The Illumination. Li Wei murmured, and the Illumination seemed to be a superhero organization in Marvel. This organization is extremely mysterious, and the identities of its members are kept strictly confidential to the outside world, so that even the family members of the members and their fellow superhero do not know the existence of this organization. The members of this secret organization can be said to be the most powerful heroes on the planet. They work together secretly in order to deal with the great crisis that may arise in the future. Always prepare for the enemies that threaten the Earth and the galaxy. The members of the Illuminati usually only hold meetings in secret only when they discover a potentially huge crisis. They hope to take precautions before the crisis occurs. As one of Marvel's fans, Li Wei naturally knows this organization. Almost all major events in Marvel are related to this secret organization. There seemed to be only a few members, Li Wei couldn't remember clearly, but Dr. Strange was one of them. You doctor, now I just leave this ghost place. Li Wei let out a cold breath. Let me show you the list of members I prepared. Stephen gave Li Wei a piece of personnel information. They all have huge amounts of power, so they are the best choice. Li Wei opened the personnel information. The first one was Mr. Fantastic. This guy is the strongest wisdom on Earth. Naturally qualified. The second is Professor X, the most powerful spiritual ability in the world. The third is Namor, the king of Atlantis, the king of the seven seas. The fourth is the Black Bat King, the leader of the alien race. Together with Stephen and Levi, there are a total of 6 people in the Illuminati. Is Professor X still alive? Li Wei asked. In the movie, it seems that after Professor X was killed by Phoenix Force Chin Jai Lei, his consciousness entered the mind of a paralyzed vegetable man. How do you convince them? It's not easy. Li Wei said. With the appearance of Loki, I believe they have realized that this world is not the only one. There are many powerful enemies outside the Earth. Leave it to me. Advertisement. All right, you have the final say, let's leave quickly. Rainbow Island. Only Li Wei came back, and Stephen Strange disappeared halfway. Hey. Gwen came over while Li Wei was playing a game in the lobby. Hey. Li Wei continued to play the game without looking back. Hey. Gwen circled back again. Hey. Gwen came again. Hey, Li. Gwen stood beside Li Wei. What's the matter? Li Wei asked. Are you okay to find out? Gwen said. What did you find? I just changed 5 sets of clothes. Really? Li Wei raised his head. It's beautiful. Then he lowered his head to play the game. ... Some secret laboratory. A few people in black were walking on the faintly lighted walkway, and their leather shoes stepped on the ground and made a bang bang sound. A few people in black came to a dark room. After the door was opened, a faint light shot into the dark room, inside which was lying a figure of Yao. Myron, are you still alive? The man in black asked. Alive. I'm still alive. Advertisement. Very well. Congratulations on your survival. I have given you the strength you want, now you can do whatever you want. Really? Definitely. A military outpost. Outside the gate, a man greeted. There was a fierce look in the man's pupils, and his name was Myron. Hey, sir, you can't go in here. A soldier stopped Melon. Bang. Melon punched out without warning, his fist hit the soldier's cheek, blood spattered, and half of the soldier's face was smashed. There is a situation. Suddenly, a few soldiers next to him rushed out, and their guns were aimed at Myron one after another. Boom, boom, boom. The soldiers squeezed the trigger, and the bullet shot at Myron. Myron didn't get knocked down as the soldiers imagined, but walked towards them step by step, swimming under the skin of his body, glowing with fire. Melon dashed forward and punched a soldier's body with a punch. He stepped forward again, knocking another soldier to the ground with a punch. Not long after, Myron ended the battle here, and he walked into the military outpost. Stop. At this moment, several soldiers rushed out of the house, and after finding the blood stains on Melon's body, they all drew their pistols and aimed at Melon. Put your hands on your head and squat down. The soldiers yelled, but Myron turned a deaf ear to him and rushed towards the soldiers. Boom. The soldiers fired, and a round was fired on Myron, only to find that the warhead fell to the ground. Melon rushed forward and punched a soldier in the throat. With a click, the soldier's blood rushed out and fell weakly to the ground. Advertisement. Malibu Beach. Tony Stark was collecting all the information about Mandarin, and suddenly, the news on the TV caught his attention. This is a military outpost in California. All 100 soldiers guarding the military outpost were killed, only a few survivors. The survivors said that it was an unarmed man who attacked their outpost. He destroyed the elevator and lit the whole building, besieging dozens of soldiers in the spreading fire, and only a few soldiers survivors came down. According to the survivors, the person who attacked them ignored the bullet damage and spewed flames. JARVIS, call out the video of the military outpost that was attacked in California, Tony said. Then, a transparent video appeared in the air. In the video, a man can be seen blasting a soldier's head with his bare hands. Fire is flowing under his skin, just like the person who exploded in the theater. He learned from his good friend Colonel Rod that these people seemed to be related to Mandarin. JARVIS, can you find him? Tony said. I found it. This guy is really not low-key at all, can you imagine? This guy runs faster than a car. With the authority of S.H.I.E.L.D., JARVIS quickly locates the target. In the video, a man runs wildly on the street, his speed easily surpasses the car. Then I will get this guy done and see if it's Mandarin. Tony put on the steel battle suit and flew towards the sky. Half an hour after the flight, Tony Stark found the target. In fact, it is not difficult to find this guy. A bunch of policemen followed him. Sir, please put your hands behind your head and squat down. Tony flew onto the street, palms at the target man. Melon showed a fierce look and rushed towards Tony. Chapter 152 Chapter 148. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Sir, please put your hands behind your head and squat down. Tony flew onto the street, palms at the target man. Melon showed a fierce look, and rushed towards Tony with a stride. I guess you would be like this. As soon as the voice fell, Tony shot an energy laser from the palm of his palm, blasting into Myron's chest. In an instant, Myron's chest clothes were burned to ashes, but he withstood the attack of the energy laser. Tony stretched out his other arm, and another energy laser shot out of his palm. Melon ran to the side, and Tony lost sight of him all at once. This speed is too fast. In Tony's vision, Melon disappeared. Sir, he's behind you. JARVIS's voice sounded, and Tony immediately turned around. As expected, Myron appeared behind him. Myron opened his mouth, and a flame spurted from his mouth, slamming on Tony's body. This guy really can breathe fire. Tony squeezed Myron's neck. Originally, he thought that the news said it was exaggerated nonsense by the media. He didn't expect this guy to really breathe fire. Tony squeezed Melon in one hand, then punched Melon in front of the door. Myron reacted quickly, squeezing Tony's steel arm. The other arm also held Tony's hand on his neck. Myron smiled weirdly, seeing a flowing fire light under the skin of his arm, and then his entire arm was red, and Tony's two steel arms were also red. JARVIS, transfer the energy to the chest. Tony immediately released Myron, and a laser shot from his chest, shaking Myron out. Myron stood up again, and saw that the position of his chest was scorched by the laser, but the fire under his skin was flowing, and his skin was intact. Iron Man. Melon made a hoarse voice, and he rushed towards Tony. Boom. Tony fired several energy shocks and was evaded by Myron. In the high-speed movement, Myron had already appeared in front of Tony. Ah! Melon let out a low roar, punching Tony in the chest, and the power different from ordinary people directly knocked Tony out. Myron continued to rush towards Tony, hitting Tony's head with a punch. Advertisement. Boom. Tony shot out energy from his palm, hit Melon's calf, knocking Melon to the ground. He quickly got up from the ground, the energy of his palm hitting Myron's head. At this moment, Myron stretched out his hand to grab Tony's calf and pulled Tony to the ground. Melon quickly got up, lifted Tony up, and threw it straight into the distance. Boom. Tony slammed into the ground, then rammed more than 10 meters away, and smashed into a car. Boom. Suddenly, cars collided on the road, causing traffic jams. My God. Tony looked at the chaotic streets. At this moment, Myron had come behind Tony. Tony quickly turned around and hit Melon with a punch. Melon stretched out his hand to wrap Tony's fist, and the steel fist was wrinkled by Melon's fingers. Tony gasped with pain, and fired a shell from the palm of his other arm on Melon's head. Melon tilted his head back, he looked at Tony with a cruel smile, and punched Tony in the chest. Dang Kang. A fist mark appeared on the chest of the steel battle suit, and Tony was shaken back and forth again and again. At this moment, Myron raised a car next to him and smashed it down at Tony. In the car, there are also a driver and a few passengers. Iron Man, explode in your iron suit. Your iron suit will crush you. Myron smashed the car on Tony. At the same time, Tony shot a shock of energy in front of his chest, blasting Myron away. Tony raised the car with both hands, but the car directly pressed him to the road. Sir, the remaining energy is 0%. No, don't do that. Advertisement. Damn it. Tony scolded. In the past few days, because Harpy was affected by Mandarin's attack, Tony provoked Mandarin. He didn't have any extra thoughts to fill the battle suit with energy. Myron got up from the ground and looked at Iron Man who was under the car. He turned and walked away. Iron Man, forget it, I have a lot of time, so I just put aside the little things. After that, Melon ran out, his speed surpassing the speed of the car. Boom boom boom. The police helicopter in the sky attacked Melon, but Melon's speed was too fast, and there were a large number of cars and passers-by on the street. The police could only follow Melon. JARVIS, turn on the secondary system for me, Tony said. Okay, sir. JARVIS's voice sounded. The heat energy is successfully converted, and the energy remains 1%. With 1% energy left, Tony crawled out of the car. Mr. Tony. At this moment, a man in black walked towards Tony. It is SHIELD Phil Coulson agent. Please use a helicopter to transport me to Malibu Beach. Don't be too bumpy on the road. I'm bleeding. The clothes are not easy to wash if they are stained with blood. Tony said to Phil Coulson. Quickly, take Mr. Tony to the hospital. Phil Coulson called his agent. No, take me home. Tony said. Okay, take Mr. Tony home. A group of agents carefully carried Iron Man onto the helicopter. Malibu, Tony's luxury villa. The armor opened and Tony knelt directly on the ground, with multiple scars on his body. Sir, you need treatment. JARVIS's voice sounded. First defeat that guy. Tony walked down the second floor of the research room, his gaze fixed on Mark 43, supernatural power. Advertisement. After putting on Mark 43 Superman, Tony flew high into the sky. JARVIS, can you locate that guy? Tony asked. Sir, don't be so troublesome. That guy has been all the way to Washington, D.C. It's hard not to pay attention. Shoo. Tony accelerated and disappeared into the distant sky. After Tony arrived in Washington, D.C., he quickly locked the target. This guy was running wildly on the street. SHIELD's Phil Coulson agent had been following him, but this guy was running too fast, and it was in the city. Phil Coulson's helicopter really couldn't catch up. Tony leapt down, and a burst of energy laser shot out, knocking Melon to the ground while he was running. Sir, kneel on the ground and hold your head with both hands. Otherwise, I can only kill you. I don't want to make this bad decision. Tony hovered over Melon, the weapon in his palm aimed at him. Then you'd better kill me. Melon said in a low, hoarse voice, his face twisted. I now have the ability to save people like me from the wicked people who live in the White House. If you don't stop, I will kill you myself. Don't force me to do this, Tony said. Come on, come and kill me. Melon's mouth sprayed flames, blasting Tony's chest. Tony flew down, quickly approached Melon, punched him hard and knocked Melon away. Shoot! Several miniature missiles shot at Myron, and there was a roar and explosion, and Myron's figure was submerged in the sea of fire. Thank you for your support. Although the first order is a bit short, the follow-up subscriptions are gradually getting better, so that we can be full of 3 shifts every day, full of motivation. Chapter 153, Chapter 149. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. There was a hoarse roar, and Melon rushed from the sea of fire, leaping towards Tony in the sky. Tony shot energy from the palm of his palm and hit Melon's body, and then he flew forward and punched Melon's head with a punch. Boom. Melon hit the ground fiercely. Melon quickly got up from the ground, when Tony flew down and hit Melon's head with a punch, knocking him to the ground. Melon rolled on the ground, and fire shot from his mouth and hit Tony. Although Tony's Mark 43 is not as powerful as Mark 42, its defensive power is far surpassed. Myron's flames did not cause much damage to Mark 43. Taking advantage of this gap, Melon got up from the ground, punched Tony in the chest, and Tony backed away. I didn't kill you before because I was busy. Melon dashed forward and struck Tony with a punch. Tony also punched Melon, both of them hit each other's chest. Tony stepped back, and Melon was hit and flew more than 10 meters away. Tony flew over quickly. Suddenly, Melon jumped up and fell on Tony, and the two smashed into the street together. Ah! Melon roared, hitting Tony with punch after punch, making a clang sound. Tony held Melon's fist and punched him in the head with a backhand, sending Melon flying away. Tony stepped forward quickly, the energy in his palm shockwave hitting Myron's head. The flames flowing under the skin quickly repaired the injury on Myron's head. He rolled to the side, pulled out the street lamp on the side of the road, and slammed Tony out. Melon rushed towards Tony, hit Tony's chest with a fist, then pinched Tony's head with both hands. The mask seemed to start to twist. JARVIS, concentrate all the energy in the chest. Advertisement. As soon as the voice fell, a beam of energy shot from Tony's chest, and instantly penetrated Myron's chest. After checking that Myron had lost his vital signs, Tony looked at his chest. This guy is not weak. Mark 43 Superman is his strongest defensive steel battle suit, but he is still punched by this guy. If it is against a terrifying super soldier like Li Wei, there is no chance of winning. Mr. Tony, is this guy dead? At this moment, the helicopter of the Phil Coulson agent stopped and he walked towards Tony. If my steel battle suit is correct, he should be dead. After speaking, Tony flew into the sky. The appearance of this guy cast a cloud over Tony's heart. This is just one person. It is so difficult to deal with. If Mandarin has mastered the manufacture of such biological weapons, then it will not be so easy for him to deal with Mandarin. Tony didn't know that the battle between him and Melon was actually being watched all the time. Some secret base. How is it? Satisfied, soldiers of Extremis are fighting the most advanced Iron Warrior system on Earth. The person who finished talking was Aldrich Killian, and the screen in front of him was playing the battle between Iron Man and Myron. Behind Aldrich Killian, walked out a man wearing a steel armor, with a metal mask on his face, outside the steel armor, wearing a green coat and green robe. Not bad. The Iron Man nodded. I am very satisfied with your desperate soldier, and I am also very interested in your plan to rule the world. ... Malibu Beach. A flight with a silhouette parallel to the sea surface at low altitude is naturally Li Wei. Advertisement. Gao Fushui Iron Man's iconic villa. Even if Li Wei's sense of direction is not very good, he can locate Iron Man at a glance. He came here because of Tony's invitation, and this guy actually invited him to help, not Tony at all. Sir, someone is flying here quickly. In the villa, after Tony got the reminder from JARVIS, he also noticed Li Wei flying fast on the sea. Is it the enemy? Tony doesn't have the terrifying vision like Li Wei. Because of the distance, he didn't tell Li Wei. Boom. With a burst of sound, Li Wei turned into a golden flash and appeared in front of Tony's villa. Hey, Tony. Li Wei greeted Roar at the camera. The glass door opened to both sides, and Li Weifei walked in. Tony was obviously surprised by Li Wei's flight ability. Is this guy still a human? Originally, he had the only advantage against Li Wei, flight, but now he doesn't. Tony, what are you looking for? You know, I'm very busy. Li Wei picked up the fruit in the fruit plate in the living room and took a bite. Actually, he was not busy at all. I recently developed a set of steel armor. She has the strongest defense. I want to test her anti-strike performance. You need a very strong person. I think you are the most suitable. Naturally, Tony would not tell Levy. In fact, this suit was originally named Mark 43 Anti-Levy Armor. The strongest defense. Li Wei picks his nose. There is no word for the strongest defense in my dictionary. But you really found the right person. Quickly get your armor out. Li Wei came interested. JARVIS, activate Mark 43, Tony said. Mr. Yes. As soon as the voice fell, a steel battle suit flew out. That's it? Li Wei asked curiously. Advertisement. Yes. Bang. As soon as Tony's voice fell, Li Wei's hands and knees suddenly pressed against the steel battlesuit chest, and there was a bang. The steel battlesuit slammed into the back for dozens of meters like a cannonball, and then it swayed. Flying into the air, it seems that they may fall into the sea at any time. Sir, Mark 43's chest armor was severely damaged, 78% of the damage. JARVIS's information made Tony's face suddenly gloomy, 78% damage, which is a terrifying number. If he was in a steel battle suit, Li Wei's attack would kill him half his life. Tony glanced at Li Wei, who was sitting on the sofa again. This expressionless guy was horrible. The Mark 43 steel battle suit, which was full of confidence, was hit randomly by him, and it was scrapped without even using his fist in the front. How could there be such a person in this world? If Li Wei knew Tony's thoughts, he would definitely say, "No way, I'm going to hang up." JARVIS, detect the source of damage, Tony said. Under analysis, 0.001%, 0.002%. Beep. At this moment, the doorbell rang. No one should be able to approach this room. Tony said to JARVIS. You didn't know that I was fighting against terrorists. Sir, there is not much I can do, you tell the world your address. JARVIS's voice sounded. Tony put on the steel battle suit and walked to the first floor hall with Li Wei. Visitor is a woman. Just stand there. Tony stopped the woman, and after scanning, Tony's mask opened. You are not Mandarin. Chapter 154 Chapter 150 Open black lens bracket Mandarin's attack, for subscription close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Tony. Stark's villa. Don't you remember? The woman asked. Don't be angry, I even forgot what I had for breakfast. Tony said. I have to talk to you somewhere else alone. The woman looked at Li Wei, who was eating fruit next to her. I have something important. I used to be happy, but now I have a girlfriend. As soon as Tony finished talking, a few suitcases were dropped from the second floor. That's her. Tony pointed to the little Pepper upstairs. Tony, is anyone here? Pepper's voice sounded. Yes, it's Maya Hansen, an old botanist. I didn't know what I knew before. Tony said, there is another friend. Tony stepped out of the steel battle suit. He approached Maya Hansen and said, don't say the 12-year-old in your car belongs to me. He is 13 years old. Maya Hansen said, I need your help, she said. Why pick now? Tony asked. I watched the news and I think you have no chance of winning. I'm Iron Man, I'll be fine. I didn't know any guests were coming. Little Pepper smiled and walked over. I don't know either, Tony said. And your old lover? Maya said. She's not. Tony shook his head. Really not. Maya Hansen nodded. We only spend one night together. You used to be like this, didn't you? Little Chili expressed his understanding. Tony, we are leaving here. Pepper looked at Tony. Advertisement. We talked, and the answer is no. Tony said. Normal people would do this. Little Pepper admonished. I can't protect you outside. You tell the world the address, don't you fear these terrorists? Almost forgot my purpose. At this moment, Maya interrupted Tony's conversation with Pepper. My boss may be working for Mandarin, she said. Who is your boss? Tony asked seriously when he heard Mandarin. Aldrich Killian. What, Killian? Just after Maya finished speaking, Pepper's surprised voice sounded. What? There seems to be a story in Roar's voice. Tony looked at Pepper. Killian used to work with me. Pepper said. Well, you go on. Tony looked at Maya. Do you remember 13 years ago? The DNA project I showed you at that time? Maya said. Tony nodded. Remember. This DNA project was named by us as the Extremis Project. I led a group of 40 people to conduct research. In the end, we succeeded. We developed Extremis. Extremis. I believe you have seen its power. Maya smiled. You mean the weird person who fought with me yesterday? Tony said. Good. What about Killian? Pepper asked at this moment. Advertisement. Killian is an idealist. We used to be naive, only pursuing science. Then we became arrogant and stubborn. By the time it was discovered, it was too late. You mean, your boss is funded by Mandarin? He sold the soldiers built by Extremis to Mandarin. Tony said. I'm afraid it is. Maya nodded. If that's the case, it will be troublesome. Tony's face was a little dignified. He had fought with the soldier of Extremis, and he knew how powerful it was. Wait, what is that? At this moment, Maya pointed to the TV and said. On TV, it's Tony's villa. This is the real-time surveillance video of the villa. In the video, several missiles are rushing towards the villa. It's dangerous. At this moment, the semi-transparent figure Li Wei got up from the sofa. Boom. As soon as the voice fell, the missile bombarded the villa, and the three of Tony, Pepper, and Maya Hansen were directly shaken out. Tony reached out in the air and commanded Mark 42's parts to fly towards Little Chili, wrapping Chili in a steel battle suit before falling. Li Wei blasted out with a punch, and the strong fist wind shook all the surrounding gravel away. You are all right? Li Wei asked several people. Boom bang bang. At this moment, several helicopters appeared above the villa, and they shot at the villa. You go first, I'll solve them. After saying that, Li Wei kicked his legs and rose into the sky. There were 3 helicopters above the villa, and a sound burst, and Li Wei rushed up. Damn it! The pilot of the helicopter looked at the guy who appeared in front of them with a look of astonishment. Li Wei shook his fist, and his fist rubbed the air to make a harsh sonic boom. The next moment, with a boom, the helicopter was directly blown up and turned into a pile of scrap iron splashing in the air and falling into the ocean. Li Weikao flew over to the second helicopter and blasted out with a punch. The helicopter did not escape the fate of being blown up. Shoo! At this moment, several missiles rushed towards Li Wei. Li Wei held the missile with his bare hands, and with a boom, the missile exploded and the resulting air waves swept all around, but Li Wei was still suspended in the air. Advertisement. Is this guy still a human? The person on the last helicopter dropped his jaw in shock. Then they saw Li Wei's fist hit them in the void. Boom. The helicopter exploded and turned into a spark. After half a minute, Tony, Pepper, and Maya finally rushed out of the villa, only to see Li Wei standing there like an okay person. Li, what about them? Tony asked. It has fallen into the ocean. Li Wei said. Okay. Tony knew that with Li Wei's strength, a few helicopters were indeed a piece of cake for him. Although the villa on Malibu Beach was bombed by Mandarin, as the Iron Man of a wealthy country, Tony could not have only one villa. But this guy chose to send Little Pepper to Li Wei's island and set up the combat center here. I need to find Mandarin, defeat him, and send him to jail. Tony regards this as his home completely and expropriates Li Wei's computer. I think you need to look at this. Li Wei pointed to the TV. This time the TV was occupied by Mandarin's signal again. Mr. President, there are only 2 classes left. I plan to end the class in the near future. On TV, it was Mandarin. At Mandarin's feet, there was also a man in a suit lying down. This is Thomason Richard, a famous and important person. He is an accountant for Lausanne Petroleum. I believe he is a good man, but I want to execute him on live TV. The number of this phone is in your cell phone, Americans, unless your president calls me within 30 seconds, otherwise he will be dead. Start. Under the gaze of all America, the phone rang next to Mandarin. When the man in the suit heard the bell, he was relieved, but the gunshot still rang and Mandarin shot. Looking at the corpse at her feet, Mandarin spoke, there is only one last class left. Mr. President, go hide and say goodbye to the child. Because neither your army nor the Steel Patriot can save you. I will see you soon. Chapter 155 Chapter 151, Desperate, thank you for your support. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. I can find this guy. Tony. Stark tapped the computer. Just find the satellite receiver of AIM and you can find the source of Mandarin's broadcast signal. Let me see where you are. As Tony used the account of his friend Colonel Rhodes, he quickly entered the military's system. Found it. Miami, Florida, Tony. Stark punched in the air, and it was time for the damn guy to fight back heavily. Do you need my help? Li Wei stepped forward and said. I can solve it. This guy is just a mouse hiding behind him. As long as I find his place, he has nowhere to escape. After that, Mark 42, the prodigal son, began to assemble on Tony, and Iron Man went online. Tony flew into the sky and disappeared into the distance. Florida, Miami. There is a prominent seaside villa here, and Iron Man's system has been positioned here. Tony flew into the villa, and then the guard of the villa spotted him. It's Iron Man. Several men in black drew their guns and shot at Iron Man. Clang clang clang. The bullet shot at Iron Man, flickering a trace of sparks. Iron Man's weapon system aimed at the crowd, and then fired, and the crowd in black was knocked down. Boom boom boom. Tony flew into the villa, and everyone in black was shot to death. Tony was so powerful that the guards who guarded the villa couldn't stop him at all. He rushed into the villa all the way. Advertisement. After all the villa guards were resolved, Tony walked up to the second floor. He opened the first room, then rushed in quickly, aiming the weapon in the room, but the room was empty. Tony continued to rush into the second room, no one. In the third room, there was still no one. Tony. Stark is a little surprised. Is there something wrong with the system positioning? No, absolutely impossible. Tony believes in the weapons he invented, and he is more confident in himself. When he rushed into the fourth house, Tony found someone. Tony walked in cautiously. He glanced around, making sure that there was no enemy in ambush. On the big bed in the room, there seemed to be a few people asleep. Tony stepped forward and quickly opened the quilt. The three figures entered Tony's eyes. The guy in the middle, Tony was very familiar with his face, was Mandarin. Around Mandarin, there are two sexy girls. Ah, at this moment, Mandarin and the two girls beside him obviously found Iron Man who had broken in. The two girls screamed, and Mandarin also raised his hands in an instant. Shut up for me. Tony angered, and the two girls shut up. If you don't want to die, get me off. Tony's weapon was aimed at Mandarin. Okay, I'll roll down. After speaking, Mandarin really rolled off the bed. Do not move. I didn't move. You can take whatever you want. Mandarin said on the ground. Do you want those two women? Tony frowned. Are this guy and the domineering Mandarin on TV really alone? Are you not really Mandarin? Tony roared. Where is he? Where is Mandarin? Tony aimed at Mandarin with his palm. Advertisement. Mandarin backed away in embarrassment on the ground. He hurriedly said, he is here, but not here. What's the meaning? It's complicated, it's hard to explain in a word. Mandarin said. Then you better be brief and don't waste my time. My name is Trevor Slattery. Who are you? Bait or double? Tony asked. I'm an actor. Mandarin is just a character, not a real person. Trevor slightly said. What does that have to do with you? I have a problem with drug abuse. In the end, I have no choice but to engage in illegal activities. And later, they asked me to act, and they knew I was taking drugs. They help you detox. No, they give me more, this mansion, plastic surgery, and a speedboat. Trevor slightly continued, they need someone to act as the mastermind of the explosion. Killian, he created you. Customized terrorist attacks. Yes, definitely, I played the role of Mandarin. Live, someone died because of it. Tony said, actually not. Trevor slightly shook his head, that's fake, it's just special effects. To be honest, I'm not on the scene most of the time. When I was here, I used movie special effects. When Trevor slightly spoke, a person appeared behind Tony. Looking at Trevor Slightly's eyes, Tony knew that he was behind, and he quickly turned around and punched the man in the cheek. Hello, Tony Stark. The person who was hit by Tony was Aldrich Killian. He twisted his neck and knocked Tony to the ground with a punch. Advertisement. Your armor is out of date. Killian slammed Tony's head with a punch. Tony flipped on the ground, and while avoiding Killian's attack, he shot a shot from his palm to knock Killian to the ground. You control 10 rings behind the scenes. Tony flew up. He asked. Yes, I am the head of 10 rings. Mandarin is just a puppet of me. Killian dashed towards Tony Stark. Tony dodges to avoid Killian's attack, shoots a shot from his palm on Killian's head, blasts Killian out, smashes the window and smashes it down. Tony flew out of the villa and into the courtyard. But Killian's figure disappeared. Sir, he's behind you. When Jarvis's voice sounded, Killian had already pounced on Tony, hit Tony's head with a punch, knocking Tony to the ground. Killian rushed forward, pinching Tony's head with both hands, and his arms began to glow red, like a red luoti. Be scorched along with your iron head. Killian gritted his teeth. Energy spurted from Tony's palm, and the two rushed out behind him, killing Killian's back hard against the wall. Killian snorted, and Tony took the opportunity to get rid of his control, punched Killian in the lower abdomen, then hit his head with a punch, knocking Killian to the ground. Tony stepped forward and aimed his palm at Killian's head, leaving no hand at all, and shot Killian's head. Boom. The ground burst and Killian rolled around on the ground, avoiding Tony's attack. Killian flew up, kicked Tony in the chest, and kicked Tony away. Killian leapt towards Tony and hit Tony in front of the door with a punch. Tony stretched his hand to block. Killian punched continuously, punching Tony on the head, kicking Tony away. I have to thank you, Tony Stark. You gave me the best gift, despair. Killian walked towards Tony. Tony quickly got up and attacked, but Killian squeezed his fist and hit Tony's chest with a punch, then lifted Tony up and slammed it against the wall. Boom. The wall collapsed, drowning Tony in the rubble. Chapter 156. Chapter 152, Mysterious Man, thanks for your support. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Killian stepped forward quickly and slammed his foot on Tony's head. Tony grabbed Killian's calf, but was kicked out by Killian. You forgot. In Switzerland that year, you asked me to meet on the roof. Killian walked over, but Tony shot him in the chest. Killian grinned in pain, and he continued to walk towards Tony. In the first 20 minutes, I really thought you would come. After an hour, I thought about jumping directly from the roof to the first floor, which would be the fastest. Tony stood up and attacked, but Killian dodged him, then counterattacked Tony, knocking him to the ground with a punch. Killian grabbed Tony's iron head and slammed it against the wall several times. But when I looked down on the city of Bern, no one knew that I was there, no one could see, and no one was watching. I suddenly thought of a great attention. I want revenge. I want revenge against Tony Stark. Boom, boom, boom. Killian hit Tony's head with punch after punch, sparks flying. Fortunately, even God took care of me, I got power. But this is not enough. I need to be an anonymous person, I just need to manipulate it behind the scenes. Because once a person has an evil face, like Ben, God of Fee, or Mandarin, it will become the target of others. Killian pulled Tony's arm hard, sparks splashed, and he seemed to want to tear Tony Stark's arm apart. JARVIS, transfer the energy to the chest. Tony faced Killian as he gritted his teeth. It's done. With the voice of JARVIS, Tony shot a burst of energy in his chest, hitting Killian's body, and blasting Killian away. Tony flew up, his weapon aimed at Killian, and the miniature missiles shot towards Killian. Advertisement. The figure flickered, and Killian's figure disappeared. What a fast speed. Tony was shocked. I'm here. Killian's voice rang behind Tony, and Tony immediately turned around, only to find Killian jumping in the air, leaping at him. Tony fired a shot from the palm of his palm and hit Killian. Killian took Tony's blow and rushed to Tony's body, and the two fell to the ground. Boom, boom, boom. Killian punched Tony's head with punch after punch, sparks splashing. Tony's palm aimed at Killian. Before he could launch it, he was grasped by Killian. Killian's strength is huge, and the arms of the steel battlesuit are wrinkled. Energy gathered in Tony's chest, rushing towards Killian. Killian dodged, and when he wanted to continue his attack, he was punched in the head by Tony, and then a beam of energy in his chest burst out again, knocking Killian away. Go to hell, bastard. A laser shot from Tony's chest, rushing towards Killian. At this moment, a transparent shield of light appeared on Killian, enveloping him. Tony's attack couldn't break the transparent shield of light. Behind Killian, a man in steel armor appeared. The man wears a steel armor, a green jacket outside the armor, a green cloak, a metal mask on his cheeks, and a green hood on his head. Only a pair of eyes reveals his whole body. Who are you? Tony aimed his palm at the steel armor man, and all the weapons on his shoulders aimed at the man. The steel man did not speak, he raised his hand. At this moment, Tony attacked first, and the energy shot from his palm rushed towards the steel man. Advertisement. Following the action of the steel man raising his hand, Tony's energy impact was blocked by a burst of energy, unable to move forward at all. The steel man raised his other arm, and a huge amounts of six-pointed star appeared. Then, a shockwave of energy shoots towards Tony. Boom. The energy shockwave bombarded Tony, he only felt a shock in his chest, and his whole body rushed out behind him. Boom. Tony hit the ground fiercely, the ground burst, and he rushed out dozens of meters behind him before stopping. Sir, the armor on the chest is damaged, 43% damage. Tony was shocked by the voice of JARVIS. This strange guy caused such severe damage to his steel battle suit with one blow. Tony got up from the ground, he looked at the armor on his chest, and there was already a scorch mark. Who is this guy? Tony was shocked at the mysterious steel man who appeared. He is mine. At this moment, Killian burst towards Tony. Tony raised his hand, a burst of energy rushed out, but Killian easily dodged. In the blink of an eye, Killian was already in front of Tony and struck Tony with a punch. Tony blocked Killian's attack, and the cannonball in his palm hit Killian's head. Killian groaned with pain, the skin on his face was scorched, but the fire was flowing under his skin, and the injury instantly recovered. The corners of Killian's mouth raised and he punched Tony's head. Tony also punched Killian's chest. The engine in the sole of his feet started. Tony flew up and knocked Killian to the ground with a punch. Boom, boom, boom. Tony fired several miniature missiles, and Killian's figure was drowned in the explosion. At this moment, only a cry of Killian was heard, and the guy leapt up and appeared in front of Tony. Tony was surprised, trying to hide, but found that Killian had already pounced on him, and the two fell to the ground. Tony hit Killian with a punch, but was pinched by Killian's hand. Killian's arm was red, and Tony's steel arm began to rise in temperature. Advertisement. Since you are hiding in the iron suit, then I will burn the iron suit to see if you can't get out. Killian shouted, pressing his hand on Tony's chest, and the steel battle suit's chest began to burn red. JARVIS, transfer energy to the feet. As Tony's voice fell, a burst of energy blasted from the engine of his foot, and Tony's body pressed against the ground and blasted away. Killian kicked his legs on the ground and leapt towards Tony. Boom. Tony shot an energy cannon out of Tony's palm, knocking Killian down from the air. Tony rose into the air without the slightest hesitation, flew towards the sky, and quickly disappeared into the distance. Tony's speed was very fast. After leaving Miami, he flew over New York City to Rainbow Island. Tony entered Rainbow Island from the safe passage, opened the door of the villa, and Tony fell to the ground. The mask opened, and Tony's mouth was filled with red blood. Oh my god, Tony, what's the matter with you? Little Pepper happened to be in the hall, and when she saw Tony, she trotted to Tony's side with her mouth covered. I'm fine. Tony gritted his teeth and shook his head. He walked out of the steel battle suit and sat down on the sofa. After cleaning the blood from his body, Tony came back to his mind to sort out his thoughts. What happened today really surprised him. Mandarin is actually a fake, just a puppet. Killian, the mastermind behind the scenes, was the enemy he had created for 13 years because of his arrogance. Peas. Thank you for your support. There is something wrong today. There are only 2 chapters. Sorry. Chapter 157, Chapter 153, Attack on Rainbow Island. Close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. What happened today shocked Tony. First of all, Mandarin, which is full of hatred all over the world, is actually fake. It was just a fake, the puppet that Killian pushed in front. Also, Killian's desperate soldiers are too powerful. They have super strong self-healing ability, various fire breathing, and Superman powers. Their steel battle suit has been upgraded, but they are still at a disadvantage when fighting desperate soldiers. If there are only 1 or 2 desperate soldiers, he is not afraid, but Extremis is a DNA project. They can create batches of desperate soldiers anytime, anywhere. Moreover, he also found a helper, a powerful and mysterious helper. Oh, Tony, what's the matter with you? At this moment, Li Wei walked into the hall. He was startled by the embarrassed Tony. Did this guy go to the World War? How could it be done like this? At the same time, Manhattan's luxury housing area, which belongs to the central area of Manhattan, costs tens of millions of dollars for any house. The people who live here are either successful businessmen from a wealthy country or a high-powered politician. The Vice President of America lives here. At the moment, a guest is welcomed at the Vice President's residence. After we get rid of the President, you will be the new President of this country, and this day is coming. In the study, America's Vice President Luis Spoto was sitting on a leather chair. Next to the bookshelf, a man was flipping through a book. The man turned to look at Vice President Luis Spoto. It was Aldrich Killian. He said, but before that, you have to give us some permission to let me know where Iron Man has escaped. Definitely. Luis Spoto nodded. After Aldrich Killian left with his men, Luis Spoto turned and returned to the study. At this time, a voice stopped him. Dad, this is a girl sitting in a wheelchair, about 10 years old, when a car accident took one of her legs. How is your study today? Luis Spoto asked with a kind smile. He looked at the child's leg. He may not be president, but he must heal the child's leg. Advertisement. The next day. Rainbow Island. Wong fried. I won. Ha ha ha. Li Wei laughed ha ha. He, Tony and Eddie were playing a fight against the landlord. Yes, Doodiju. This chess and card competitive game is not only popular in China, but even popular all over the world. But how could Tony and Eddie be the opponent of Li Wei, a master of landlords? In just 1 hour, Tony had lost millions. And Eddie, who lost all his underwear, owed Li Wei millions. Eddie at the moment expressed regret. He thought he had good skills in fighting the landlord, but in front of his father Li Wei, he was just a son. With the loss one after another, Eddie's cheeks have begun to twist. Judging from his appearance, he probably doesn't plan to pay back the money. However, Doodiju did not relieve Tony Stark's anxiety. After playing for a while, he went to fiddle with his armor. Training ground. This is usually where everyone from the Heroes Association trains. Boom. With a loud bang, Mark 43 Superman rushed out and hit the wall heavily. Sir, the armor damage is 77%. Come again. The armor damage is 73%. The armor damage is 82%. After testing a few times, Tony's Mark 43, Supernatural Man, steel battle suit has been scrapped. It's unscientific. I've improved the armor of Superman, why can't I hold the blow? Tony was lost in thought. Advertisement. He had already analyzed Li Wei's power, which was the power of a pure fist, and Tony was shocked when he learned the result of this analysis. Can manpower really reach this level? After analyzing the power of Li Wei's punch, Tony improved Mark 43 Superman, but he still couldn't resist Li Wei's fist. Why is this? Tony pinched his chin in thought. Tony, in fact, your suit of armor is already very good. It's amazing to be able to hold my punch. Li Wei walked over. Are you complimenting me? Tony said. Definitely. Li Wei nodded. Hint, there are a lot of fighters outside the island. At this moment, a voice rang from the bracelet on Li Wei's arm. This is Kojima's intelligence system. Li Wei called up the operation interface, and a transparent interface appeared in the air. On the interface, you can see helicopters floating around the island. Who is so courageous? Li Wei murmured. It should be Killian. I didn't expect that guy would chase here so quickly. Tony said. Then let's solve him. Li Wei said. He flew out of the training ground and flew towards the outside of the island. Soon, Tony also appeared behind Li Wei wearing a steel battle suit. Eddie is the only one who can fight on Rainbow Island, and he can't flight, so he can only stare at the island. Over the island, dozens of helicopters are suspended. Tony Stark, you can't escape, attack. Following the order of Killian on the helicopter, dozens of helicopters launched an attack. Boom bang bang, countless missiles shot towards the island, seeming to faintly raise the island to the ground. Boom. A deafening roar sounded, and all these missiles exploded in the air, and a transparent mask appeared over the island. Advertisement. Boom boom boom. The helicopter fired dense bullets, rushing towards the island, but the island was still blocked by the transparent mask. Boss, it seems that the whole island is wrapped in some kind of energy, said a man next to Killian. I'm not blind yet, I can see it. Wait, someone. Before the words fell, two figures flew up and appeared in front of the helicopter. Iron Man Tony Stark, and Li Wei. Kill them. Aldrich Killian gave orders to all the helicopters. Whoosh. One by one missiles rushed towards Iron Man and Li Wei, and Iron Man flew up, avoiding the missiles' attack. Li Wei's figure shook, and when he looked again, Li Wei had disappeared. Bang. With a burst of sound, Li Wei turned into a golden flash and rushed towards the helicopter in front of him. Boom. A helicopter was penetrated by the golden flash and exploded, exploding like firework, becoming a pile of scrap iron and falling into the ocean. Boom boom boom. With a loud explosion, 3 helicopters were destroyed in the blink of an eye. Damn it. A helicopter pilot was frightened and his hairs stood up, his forehead was covered with fine sweat, and a breath of death enveloped his head, because the golden flash of light rushed towards him. The moment the helicopter pilot thought, the golden light had already rushed to the front of the helicopter. The guy grinned and showed his white teeth, and raised his fist at him. Then, there is no more. Boom. With a boom, the helicopter burst open, leaving a brilliant spark in the air. Please thank you for your support, ask for subscription ah. Chapter 158 Chapter 154. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. Boom. Li Wei blasted out with a punch, roar howled, the wind blew out, and the terrifying wind pressure rushed forward. In an instant, more than a dozen helicopters within the range of Li Wei's punch were destroyed one after another, exploding in the air, turning into blossoming firework. The figure flickered, and Li Wei disappeared again. Boom. The golden light flashed, and another helicopter was destroyed. Boss, should we run away? Killian's men looked at him. Nonsense. Do I still need to talk about it? Go away. Killian almost snarled. It was horrible, Killian wiped the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. As the helicopters were shot down, there was nothing in the sky, only one helicopter disappeared in the distance. Want to go? How easy is it? With a loud explosion, Li Wei rushed towards the helicopter in the distance. The speed of the helicopter is far lower than Levi's flight speed. After a few roars sucked, Levi came over the helicopter. A fist struck out, and the fist rubbed against the air to produce a harsh sonic boom. Boom. The helicopter exploded suddenly, turning into a spark. Li Wei glanced at the falling figure on the helicopter. The guy jumped out of the helicopter the moment he punched him, and was lifted out by the exploded helicopter for a long time. Killian. At this moment, Tony's roar sounded, and he flew toward Killian, who had fallen in the air. Advertisement. Quickly flew over to Killian's side, and Tony slammed Killian's face at the door with a fist. At this moment, a mutation. Behind Killian, a whirlpool appeared. In the whirlpool, a steel arm was stretched out to pull Killian into the whirlpool portal. Want to go? At this moment, Li Wei burst out. Come out for me. Just as the whirlpool portal was about to close, Li Wei jammed the portal with both hands, pulled it hard, and forcibly pulled the portal torn apart. Seeing this, Tony rushed into the portal immediately, and Li Wei rushed into the portal with a little toe. On the other side of the portal, it was no longer New York City. This is a castle, the kind of aristocratic castle that prevailed in Europe in the Middle Ages. The place where Li Wei and Iron Man Tony appeared was on the huge balcony of the castle. In front of them, Killian had just risen from the ground. Behind Killian was a man wearing a steel armor, a green coat on the armor, a metal mask on his face, his head hidden under his hood, and a green cloak behind him. Even if only one pair of eyes appeared, the steel man could not conceal the deep astonishment that was revealed in his eyes. The transmission door he opened was torn abruptly. What, can you still play like this? Li Wei's actions gave him a new perspective on magic once again. You can't kill him, he is still useful to me. At this time, the steel man spoke. Dumb. Li Wei's voice made the steel man look at him. Who are you? The steel man who Li Wei called Dumu asked Li Wei. Hearing the question of the steel man, Li Wei knew that he had guessed right, and this guy's appearance is still quite recognizable. Advertisement. Victor Von Doom, code-named Dr. Doom. This guy is not simple, one of the famous villains in the Marvel Universe. Has appeared as a villain of many superhero, Spider-Man, Iron Man, Doctor Strange, Avengers, X-Men, Punisher, Blade Warrior, etc., are basically boss-level villains. Dumu himself didn't have any super ability, but by chance, he mastered magic and read various European magic books. His magic level could compete with Doctor Strange. In addition to the level of magic, Dum is also a scientific genius. The steel battle suit technology he developed is not inferior to Iron Man's steel battle suit. After being disfigured in an experiment, Dum put on a mask. With magic and high-tech skills, Dum seized the supreme power in his hometown of Latovenia, and then conquered the world step by step, repeatedly fighting with Avengers and Fantastic Four and other superheroes. This guy can be said to be one of the most powerful villains in the Marvel Universe. He has fought with the superhero many times and has not fallen behind. This originally explained the problem. Unexpectedly, this extremis incident, even Dr. Doom was involved. However, how can such a powerful opponent make Li Wei not excited? Should we follow the procedure, or just start the fight? Li Wei looked at the two people in front of him, mainly staring at Dr. Doom. As one of the powerful villains in the Marvel Universe, Dr. Doom, didn't say much, so he directly raised his hand and a huge amounts of six-pointed star appeared. Boom! A mighty energy burst out from the six-pointed star, rushing towards Li Wei and Tony. Li Wei stepped forward, holding his arm upright in front of him, and powerful energy impacted Li Wei's arm. Boom! The ground cracked, the floor under Li Wei's feet shattered, and he fell. Boom! Li Wei rose up into the sky as the rubble splashed. The figure shook, and Li Wei turned into a golden flash and rushed towards Dr. Doom. In the blink of an eye, he came to Doom, Dr. Doom, and fisted down. Advertisement. Boom! A big explosion sounded, rubble splashed, and a strong wind swept around. In the distance, Dumu's figure emerged. In the smoke and dust, Li Wei's figure turned into an afterimage again, rushing towards Dum. In an instant, Li Wei came to Dum. Aura's wind. Following Dumu's spell, a gust of wind erupted from his body and swept around. Li Wei only felt a shock in his chest, and the gust of wind slammed into his chest, like being hit by a speeding train. In Dumu's stunned eyes, the enemy in front of him was not affected by his magic. He stepped out, his fist with piercing tearing air sounds, and bombarded him. Dumu's pupils contracted violently. At the moment of his death, he twisted his body and escaped Li Wei's magical fist. Boom! A deafening roar sounded, and the fierce fist wind blasted the castle out a huge amounts of caves. Although Dumu escaped Li Wei's attack, the terrifying wind pressure still lifted him away. At this time, Iron Man Tony Stark also rushed towards Killian, and the two fought together again. You are not my opponent, Tony Stark, your steel shell is outdated. Killian grabbed Tony by the neck and slammed him against the ground. Immediately, he punched Tony in the chest. A shot from Tony's palm knocked Killian to the ground. He quickly flew up, and a laser shot from his palm, impacting Killian's body. Killian gritted his teeth to withstand Tony's attack, his chest was red and white smoke. Killian kicked his legs on the ground, and jumped up towards Tony, lunging on him, the two of them squabbling in the air. Chapter 159 Chapter 155. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. On the other side, Dum crawled out of the ruins. At this time, Li Wei has come to him. Dumu quickly got up and punched Li Wei to face the door. Li Wei twisted his head, avoiding Duemu's blow, and hit Duemu's chest with his fist. Boom! For an instant, Dum's armor appeared densely cracked, his eyes were suddenly bloodshot, and the whole person turned into a cannonball and rushed out behind him. Boom! Dum fell from the castle, smashed into the city below, and rushed out for hundreds of meters before stopping. The rubble splashed, Dum walked out of the ruins, and under the metal mask, blood dripped to the ground drop by drop. He could hardly believe that dense cracks appeared in the steel armor on his body. And this bald head only took a punch. Rage burned from Dumu's body, and he hadn't been so embarrassed since he gained strength. Bang! At this moment, a loud sound rang out, and a golden light blasted over and hit the street. Boom! The ground exploded and rubble splashed. Oh my god, what happened? Is it an earthquake? No, it looks like an enemy. With the sound of panicking, the crowd on the street suddenly dispersed, and fled in every direction. As the dust cleared, Li Wei stepped out, his white cloak flying in the air. On the street, Li Wei and Dumu stood upright, facing each other. The pupils in Dumu's mask were already full of angry flames. Advertisement. The fire of Hephaestus, listen to my orders. Dumu's angry roar sounded, and a majestic magic power burst out from his body. Then, a small flame appeared in Dumu's palm. As soon as the small flame appeared in the air, it rose and swelled instantly, becoming a huge amounts of fire dragon that enveloped Dumu. Roar. The fire dragon let out a roar, and rushed towards Li Wei. Wherever the fire dragon went, the buildings on both sides of the street were grilled by high temperature, emitting white smoke, and then blazing. The flames generated by these buildings madly gathered on the fire dragon, and the fire dragon's body became larger and larger. When arriving in front of Li Wei, the fire dragon had already occupied half of the sky in Li Wei's field of vision, and then swallowed and covered Li Wei in one bite. Boom. There was a loud roar, and a huge amounts of hole appeared in this fire dragon's body. Li Wei kicked his legs on the ground, and his whole body rushed towards Dum. Boom. With a boom, the ground burst into cracks, and a huge amounts of flame paw slapped Li Wei on the ground. Roar. The fire dragon roared, with flames ejected from its mouth, impacting towards Li Wei on the ground. A scorching sensation came, and the temperature of the flame jetted by the fire dragon was extremely terrifying, and the stone slabs on the ground were all burned into magma. Li Wei slapped his arm on the ground, and his whole body was tossing up in the air, standing on the ground to look at the flaming dragon with its teeth and claws. Roar. The fire dragon roared and swallowed towards Li Wei. Boom. The next moment, Li Wei raised his fist, and the huge head of the fire dragon was blasted out of a huge amounts of hole. The flames gathered frantically and regrouped into a huge amounts of fire dragon. Li Wei slapped his hands together, and immediately, the strong wind pressure produced rushed towards the fire dragon, and the strong wind blew, the fire dragon instantly dissipated invisible. Li Wei turned around, and suddenly, a terrifying beam of energy hit Li Wei. Li Wei stepped back to stabilize his figure, and the ground suddenly burst, and dense cracks appeared. Advertisement. Boom boom boom. As the energy continued to hit Li Wei, cracks appeared on the ground. Boom. With a blast from the ground, Li Wei's figure disappeared. Boom bang bang. Li Wei was in the high-speed movement on the street, and the naked eye couldn't catch him at all, only a golden light flashing past. In the blink of an eye, Li Wei came to Dome. Boom. The fist bombarded Dum with a thunderous momentum. The power of Kratos. Dumu roared, a giant six-pointed star appeared in front of him, and a mighty force burst out from the six-pointed star. Boom. An energy beam with a diameter of 1 meter blasted out of the giant six-pointed star, and hit Li Wei fiercely. This terrifying force seemed to tear every inch of his muscles. Boom bang bang. The ground exploded and cracks appeared, and Li Wei was pushed back by the powerful force step by step. The power of Kratos, listen to my orders. As Dumu's spell sounded again, a more majestic and terrifying force burst out. Li Wei felt a shock in his chest, and the whole person turned into a golden light and rushed out behind him. Boom. Where Jin Guang went, the surrounding houses were instantly shattered. Flying out hundreds of meters away, Li Wei smashed into a church, and a violent wind pressure swept around, and the entire church collapsed in an instant. Except for a praying child, there is no one else in the church at this moment. The child was frightened by the unexpected situation, and then the wall fell towards him. Ah! The child screamed, and when he was about to be buried, a figure appeared above him, blocking the collapsed wall. Boom! With a loud roar, the whole church was turned into ruins. Then, there was another loud noise, and the ruins of the church were lifted out, and Li Wei walked out of the ruins, with the child beside him. Advertisement. Outside the church, Dome stands here. Very good, interesting. Li Wei came to be interested. Dumu's magic is very strong, and the tearing pain from his body can't be faked, although it is very weak. The stronger this feeling of tearing, the more energetic and refreshed Li Wei is. Li Wei hasn't felt the pain for a long time, this kind of sensation that normal humans have. The fading feeling appeared again, which made Li Wei very excited. After the child left, Dum attacked again. This time Dum chose to fight in close combat. In addition to magic, his melee combat ability was not bad, and he also had steel armor on his body. However, the suit of Dumu's armor that was shattered by Li Wei's previous punch, this time without a punch, shattered to the ground. Take out all your strength, otherwise, you will die. Li Wei stood up, looking at Dum with a torch-like gaze. As you wish. The fire of Hephaestus. A small flame appeared in his hand following Dumu's spell. Dumu threw the small flame to the ground, and the flames suddenly rose, or as a fire dragon with teeth and claws leaping towards Li Wei. Boom. Li Wei struck with a punch, and the fist rubbed the air to make tearing air sounds. The burning fire dragon instantly turned into nothingness under the fierce wind pressure. The power of Kratos, listen to my orders. Immediately, Dumu's voice came, and a shockwave of energy bombarded Li Wei's body. Boom. The ground cracked, and the faint pain reappeared, causing Li Wei's emotions to finally change, and he had a hint of joy. Is that enough? Li Wei looked at Dumb. Chapter 160 Chapter 156 Seriously Punch. Close black lens bracket. Previous chapter. Next chapter. Advertisement. The anger in Dumu's eyes burned again, and this guy's contempt made him almost exploded. The power of Kratos' rage. Hades whispered. Following Dumu's spell, a black flame appeared in his other palm, and then the black flame burned blazingly, entwined with the power of Kratos. Boom. In an instant, the ground burst, and black cracks appeared on the ground. With two people as the center, everything within a radius of 100 meters was lifted out. This terrifying force bombarded Li Wei again. Li Wei did not evade, his fist blasted out from the front. Must kill series, a serious punch. Boom, a deafening roar resounded through the sky, and the black magic beam and Li Wei's fist bombarded together. Ah! The two terrifying forces continued to collide, and at this moment, Li Wei took a step forward. Immediately, Dumb felt a shock in his chest, and he took a step back. Li Wei stepped forward again, and the moment his toes landed, the ground exploded under the influence of terrorist forces. Afterwards, Dumb took a step back again. Li Wei retracted his fist backwards, then bombarded out. Boom, a deafening roar came, and in Dumu's unbelievable gaze, the magic beam began to appear cracks. Boom. Then, the magic beam collapsed, turning into a burst of light and dissipating in the air. But this did not end, the violent wind pressure hit Dumu fiercely. Advertisement. Dumb stretched his hand forward in amazement, a majestic magic burst out of him. Boom. The fierce wind pressure bombarded Dumu's body with unstoppable force. He snorted, and the whole person turned into a black line and rushed out behind him. After flying hundreds of meters, he hit hard. Ground. Boom bang bang. Dumu stopped after rolling dozens of meters on the ground. Li Weifei fell in front of Dumb. At this moment, Dumb's jacket had been torn by the fist wind, his upper body was naked, and the metal mask on his face burst. I don't know where he flew, revealing the disfigured one. Red blood flowed out of the cheeks and the corners of the mouth. Wow. Seeing Li Wei, Dumu vomited out blood again. Come on, I can fight again. Dumb stood up swayingly. Next time, Li Wei said, his gaze looked at the castle on the hill in the distance. It seems that Iron Man has been hit by a hammer, and if he doesn't stop him, this guy will probably die. Li Wei flew up into the air, a sound exploded, and he turned into a golden light and flew towards the castle. In the castle, the battle between Tony Stark and Killian was more serious than Li Wei had imagined. The armor on Tony's chest was shattered, blood rushed out, and the armor was dyed red. Go to hell, Tony Stark. Killian lifted Tony up and smashed it hard against the ground. A golden light flashed, Tony was caught by Li Wei, and Killian was lifted off. Tony, are you okay? Li Wei laid Tony flat on the ground. I feel okay, but JARVIS reminded me that if I don't go to the hospital for treatment, I will die. Tony said, shivering. Okay, I'll take you away right away. Li Wei said. Don't even think about leaving, our battle is not over yet. At this moment, Killian rushed up with bloodshot eyes and roared. Boom. As soon as the voice fell, the next moment Killian's body burst open, and his flesh and blood splashed to the ground. With a loud sound, Li Wei took Tony into the sky. Advertisement. About 10 minutes later, Li Wei took Tony from Florida to New York City. Following Tony's prompt, Li Wei came to Stark Hospital, which is Tony Stark's private hospital. After that, Li Wei was no longer needed. The doctors rushed in front of Roar and sent their biggest boss to the medical room. Half an hour later, Li Wei informed Xiao Zhao to come to the hospital. Li, Tony is okay. Little Chili said, panting, apparently running all the way here since entering the hospital. It's okay, it's just a small injury. Li Wei said. It's okay to blame. Tony's injury was very serious, and the blood spurting from his chest stained the steel battle suit red. At this time, the doctors walked out with heavy faces. Miss Botts, Mr. Stark wants to see you. Upon hearing this, Pepper almost fainted. With Li Wei's support, the two walked into the medical room. At the moment, Tony's body was stained red with blood, and the blood-stained steel battle suit was thrown aside. Tony, how are you? Little Chili rushed up and held Tony's hand. Help me find Maya Hansen, I need her. Tony said weakly. I have her contact information. After I heard that her boss was working for Mandarin, I left her contact information. Little Chili said eagerly. Okay, call her and ask if she still has Extremis. Tony is dying and needs Extremis for help. Good. Little Pepper nodded repeatedly, and she didn't even think about what Tony was talking about, and hurriedly turned on the phone and dialed a call. Yes, she said she did. After contacting Maya Hansen, Pepper said excitedly. Let her bring Extremis here. Tony said weakly. Advertisement. Half an hour later, Maya Hansen came to the hospital, and he was led into the medical room by Pepper. Oh my god, Tony, what happened? Maya Hansen looked at Tony, who was covered in blood, and covered her mouth in surprise. Maya, your Extremis is great, really. Unbelievable speed, recovery ability, damage ability, I can't react to the speed of the armor. What did Killian do to you? It's fine. Little Pepper, let everyone go out, leaving Maya alone. I need her help, Tony said to Little Pepper. Although he didn't know what was going on, Little Pepper did so, leaving only Tony and Maya in the medical room. You are unclear, you need a doctor. Maya said. I'll be fine if you give me Extremis injections. Extremis works through the body repair center. What you told me, it will heal me. Extremis will kill you. Injecting Extremis, you can't survive. I must be injected, otherwise these injuries are enough to kill me. Well, you won. Maya Hansen took out an Extremis reagent from her pocket. Pepper had told her on the phone, and she brought it over. Killian is like a biological synthesis machine, and I am just an ordinary person in armor. I train my reaction speed at home, but it is still not fast enough. I need to connect the armor directly to my brain, and Extremis can do it. I need to be part of the armor, and I want to make new connections. Extremis will let me merge with the armor.